Good evening and welcome once again to another episode of the Message Music Diaries. It's so amazing for us to be on our fourth episode already, and we are just so thrilled with the lineup that we've got this evening. We've got a few keyboardists, some bass guitarists, a nice lineup of bass guitarists, and then some more people from the brass section. I think that's going to be quite interesting as well. So please join us, and I hope you'll enjoy it. You know, when we started this out a few weeks ago, we never imagined that we'd go all the way to 4 episodes. And here we've come almost to the end of May, and we can just see greatness ahead, because next week we've got a very special episode lined up for you, where we're going to take all the music that has been played so far and join it into one big track. And you can join us next week for just everything that has been played throughout the month of May. And then we're also speaking to a few pastors and a few chorus leaders. So if you'd like to hear those episodes, they're coming up in the future. And I'm quite excited about that. I'm excited for our second season coming up as well. I think that's going to be quite amazing. But for now, let us end this season with our last episode for the month of May, where we interview our last set of musicians. And the next set of musicians, we're going to take over to season 2. I hope you enjoy this. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. Thanks for taking off some time off your schedule and being with us and sharing your story and your love for music with us. Wow, that's beautiful, Brother Chandre. I really enjoyed that as the deer panteth. And you played it so smoothly, so sweetly. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Don't you just want to introduce yourself to us, please?
Hi, Delton. I'm John Ray Adams, originally from PE, but recently moved to Cape Town 4 years ago. And attended at Pastor Godfrey's Church, but currently attending at Cape Town Tabernacle.
Okay. And how long are you playing the piano?
I started at the age of seven. Seven, started by ear, playing by ear. My dad showed my first song. So started at the age of seven, got my own piano at the age of seven, and that's when I started playing piano. So quite a while back.
And do you play any other instruments?
Yeah, I play a bit of guitar and bass guitar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think that rounds a musician nicely off. So you got a bit of the rhythm sections there as well. I think a question that has come through every single week is: do you take your chords from piano and put them onto guitar? Or do you take your chords from guitar and put them onto piano?
So I'm a pianist, so I take my course from piano and I take it to guitar.
Take it to guitar. Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's cool. So do you have any formal training?
I trained in grade 5 and 6 for 2 years. Then I dropped out because I didn't like notes. So then I dropped out, didn't like reading because I always used to play by ear and I didn't like getting told I need to read music in order to play.
Yeah, the stubbornness that we as musicians have sometimes, eh? So your experience is limited, but definitely uh, you play by ear, and it sounds so beautiful what you're doing there. I think you've really managed to master your instrument. Um, so from that perspective, do you ever think about teaching music?
Yeah, that's quite a question. I'm not a good teacher in music because I basically look at other musicians, see how they play, and I try to steal from them. So then I would ask the musician what key you play out of, and if they tell me okay they play on C sharp, then I ask them what you're doing, and they tell me no, I'm just doing this. Then I'm like okay cool, that's all I need to know, and I'll go home and go figure it out myself. So
And
I'm my own teacher at this point in time.
I think that's a good positive quality to be able to ask people what are they doing, and not just to sit there and wonder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a favorite musician of mine used to tell me that I used to ask him the question, "How did you learn how to play?" And he always used to tell me, "Now you look at what they're doing, you ask them, and you steal from them, and you go home and you go practice." So that was my philosophy since a young age, and that's what I've been doing.
I like that philosophy very, very, very much. So I have a question then for you. Who is the musicians that you look up to? Who are your role models? Who did you learn from?
Who did I learn from? So quite a good question. Because I grew up in the message. Nahimia was the first guy that I looked at playing because
Wow.
he was the known as the musician that played everything. So trumpet, trombone, and when he used to play in church, I used to always be like, oh man, I'm gonna be like that guy. I'm gonna play piano like that guy. And yeah, ever since then, I used to beg people to teach me to play, but then it was like, nah, man, I can't learn from them. I need to teach myself how to play. And my dad, he got my own piano, and he's like, okay, cool, here's piano. What you gonna do now? And he used to buy me this plug into piano, and then from there, I used to play late at night, practicing, trying to get my skills up. And yeah, so Naomi is one of them. Theodore, all the Congolese, they're one of them because I grew up in front of them. Um, yeah. And then also, Zion is also a very good role model because the one day he came to PE and he did this one riff on the piano and I was like, oh, I love this man. I need to know this. and I stood next to him, and I was looking at his fingers, seeing what he was doing. And then he spoke to other musicians, but he was speaking the number system. And at that time, I never knew the number system. But all I used to remember was the numbers that he used to say. And I used to go back and go to do research on the number system. And yeah, I stole a bit from him as well. So yeah.
And these are all musicians we've had on here before, and I think they are definitely great musicians. They've pumped a lot of knowledge into the younger musicians growing up. So that's very good to hear coming from you. So I know you are not, the 30, 40-year experience in music and also in the message, but I want to ask you that question anyway. In your time of playing music in church and watching others playing music, what is your opinion about the music in the church?
Um, well, I always grow up with the saying that you need to be genuine when you play. So you need to express yourself when you
Mm,
play. So whenever I saw other musicians play, I was like, oh man, I love the way they play. I love their style of playing. And
mm,
I took a lot from them on the way they were playing and how they were expressing themselves, especially a musician that would enjoy the music and start smiling behind the piano. I'm like, oh, that guy's enjoying. He's doing some good things there, and I'll be like, okay, cool. I need to learn this. I need to practice and to know what he's feeling.
yeah.
So yeah, during my time being playing as a musician, I used to always listen to the elders. So whenever they say no, I'd rather do this than that, and I'm like, cool. I'm not gonna even question this. I'm just gonna steal from them and take from them. And yeah, that's how I grew up in the message. And because I got exposed to different genres of music as well, that also gave me a bit of a feel of everything. Yeah.
I think that's a very very good answer. And I think you're one of those musicians that I can pick up so far is not shy to say you're learning from others. I think there's definitely people don't want to recognize other musicians, and I think that's what we're trying to do here as well on the Message Music Diaries is to recognize our musicians, great and small. We don't have a competition here to see who's the best. But we're trying to hear the testimonies. We're trying to hear, who did you learn from? Who are the musicians that are pumping back and who are the musicians that are keeping it all to themselves? But we don't have any of those. Fortunately not. So, Brother Chandra, thanks so much for your story, your testimony. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to ask the other musicians here on the panel tonight if they've got any questions. I'm going to start here with Jason. Jason, do you have any questions for Brother Chandra?
Yes, I do. Um, Brother Chandra, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good.
Awesome, man. I love your playing. I love it. That's all. What I wanted to say is, outside of stealing, and I know learning from other people, is that your only way of getting information, or do you actually look at other materials too?
I do look at other materials. So I have a favorite American artist like Yamal. So I normally listen to his music a lot, and I look at what he does. And yeah, there's a few other musicians also that I look at. So I normally, if I'm bored, then I go look at other musicians and try to figure out what they're doing in their music and improve
Oh,
on that.
that's awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Chandra, for that. We're going to go over to Sister Esther. Do you have any questions for Brother Chandra?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Brother Chandra. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. How are you?
I'm good and stuff.
I'm great, thank you. I wanted to know are you playing in the orchestra at the moment in your assembly?
I'm not playing. I haven't been playing for 3 years. Ever since I moved to Cape Town and I landed up playing guitar and bass guitar in church
Okay.
because yeah, the pastor just put me on the spot. So I'm like, okay, I'll just pick up these instruments and start playing. So yeah, I haven't been playing really piano that much.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed it. It's incredibly gentle on the ear, and we had a lovely atmosphere about it. So thank you for sharing.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions, guys. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Brother Chandra. We're going to go over to Brother Jason now. Jason, that's some good stuff there, man. Wow, I enjoyed that. I was really just getting
Thank you.
into
Thank
the
you.
spirit there. Wow, man. Jason, don't you want to just introduce yourself to us, please?
Okay, I'm Jason Stalls. I'm reside in Innerdale. I also go to the Rubens Church in Toekomsrus Assembly, where Dalton goes.
Thanks, Jason.
um,
Jason,
no,
yeah. So that song you're playing now, you incorporated quite a few sounds in there. Tell us about that.
okay, what I did was I used the piano pad, there's bass, rhythm drums from the keyboard, and then to lead I used strings.
Okay, so I want to know a bit more about this. Years ago we used to hear about somebody playing piano and somebody playing strings. These days it's called pad. What exactly is that? Don't you want to tell us what that is?
Yeah, pad it's the same as strings, but strings is more bright and pad has a more subtle sound to it. So it's like under the piano. It doesn't, it's not very, how do you say, it's there, but it's not there. So when everybody else plays, you won't hear it, but once everything settles, then it actually comes out. So it's got a nice keeping that sound still going. So if you basically, everybody else is there, and when they go out, then you actually have that atmosphere still being created by it.
Wow, that I think that's a good answer because yeah, I was thinking, the pad player was just filling in sounds in the background, but now you're giving me a picture that you are filling in the blank spaces, and I think that takes a very big talent. The musicians every week we've got a joke going about which instrument is the hardest to play, and but
Oh,
for
true.
me, I think that if you can listen to the orchestra, you're listening to the band, and you're finding out what is missing, what sound is missing that I need to fill in. I think that takes quite a big talent
No,
to be
true.
able to do that. So well done on that, Jason. I mean, I've watched you
Thank
play
you.
for many years. Tell us a bit about your musical background.
Okay, I started playing, well, I wouldn't say playing. I was given three chords, F sharp, B, C sharp. At the age of 15, somewhere around there. And the guy that taught me, he moved back to Cape Town and basically left me with that. From there, it was being thrown in the deep end, learning the number system. So it was very basically just thrown in the deep end and played, carried on, learned from there. Um, However, when it comes to me playing further, I would say I was only playing out of earshot for years. And then when I decided about 6 years ago, I decided I'm going to get out of earshot and then play out of all the keys. So for me personally, I'm playing 6 years, but I've been playing for about, say, 15 years, you would say.
I remember that, Jason. Over 8 years ago, I think me and you were playing in the band, and as a guitarist, you look over to the piano or the keyboard closest to you to see what chords they're playing. And here's Jason's fingers on the black notes. And I'm thinking, what's this guy doing there? That's surely not the easiest way to play this instrument. Come on, let's come down to the white notes. So I remember seeing you hovering on
True,
those
true.
black notes. So, Jason, you work. Tell me a bit about. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question about Casio. Right. So we know that they don't just make calculators. Um,
No.
you use their keyboards and their instruments. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Okay. Um, I was, I wouldn't say when I started with, well, I actually started playing on a Casio light up key. Was also one of the keyboards I actually started up with. I wasn't really a Casio fan, but when I bought my first piano, I was looking for something. I was looking for a weighted keyboard or a weighted piano, and I I think I just got married. So it's about 8 years ago, and I bought my digital piano, which was the Casio PX735, and from there fell in love. The sound, the ambience, all that. I enjoyed it, and also price. I always tell guys, go for the Roland Phantom or the Yamaha Motive. By all means, it's based on affordability. So when I got into Casio, their highest range is not more than 30,000 rand.
So that's interesting to know, because I know you assisted the church with the Casios that we've got there. And although most people in the audience cannot hear what instrument you're playing from, I know that the conversation below here is going to go again between our brother Zion and Howard, fighting about Yamaha and Roland and all of those things. And yeah, we've got a Casio player that has entered the argument as well. So Jace,
No arguments.
You've been playing for quite a few years. You've played in concerts, you've played in different churches, you've played in the Message. I know that you've been influenced by a lot of genres, but I want to know two things from you now is, which genre specifically, you alluded to it a bit just now, but specifically now, which genre do you like the most? And then who influenced your playing the most?
Okay, first question, genre. So from a genre perspective, everything for me was based around Christian music. So if I'm going to listen to a song that's Christian based but has a jazz orientated to it, that's for me is how I would look at the song. So the same song that I was playing, if you listen to it, it has jazz movements in it, but it's not a jazz song. I was actually having a chat with a friend, the same song that Michael did on the saxophone. He was playing Amazing Grace Shall Always Be My Song of Praise. That's the song he was playing. And that same song, if you listen to Oh Danny Boy, it's a jazz standard.
Yep.
There's nothing different. Only at the end you'll hear a bit of a change. But Oh Danny Boy it's jazz. My Song of Praise is gospel. But the elements that they use is exactly the same. So that's how I see it. So I listen to a lot of Baptist type style music because it has that, what I like more or less. I would say that's the type of music that I listen to more. But at the same time, I listen to Southern gospel. Southern gospel comes from a bebop type style. So I have tried to, and because I'm learning those in that way, I think then I also get to understand how to do when certain songs gets played. So especially your upbeat songs, you can add in a bit of bebop because it's Southern gospel.
Yeah. It was. And then who influenced you the most?
Oh, everybody. From episode 1, Jonathan Erickson knows, Maya knows. I've been on the, every time I get to chat to them, I'm either taking chords or learning from them. Bugs, I because I'm going into looking at playing more second keys than piano, I feel that, like you said, when it comes to a bit more difficult, I feel second keys and third keys is ridiculous versus to piano, because piano, you don't have to, you can just play the chords, you can allow everybody to do everything else all in there, but when you really need to play keyboard or second keys, it's a bit more difficult. And then Mark Benjamin, Marion, these are guys that I look up to. So I definitely steal from them. Also, even if it's not by them playing conventions, watching convention videos, I get to actually get a lot out of that, including Walton, brilliant, disciplined man. Nehemiah, disciplined. I really enjoy them. However, I do have someone in particular is Ezra Erasmus. Funny enough, he's a circular a musician, but he plays a lot for the Pentecostal guys, Jonathan Rubain and all of them. He's also a part of Casio at the moment, and which is more interesting, he knows the message, and his father was a pastor, James Erasmus, which Brother Beckett actually buried. So he's, I would say, mentoring me, and from a music perspective, he's vast and very helpful.
Oh wow! Oh wow! That's quite a range, encyclopedia of musicians that you are drawing from there, Jason. Which other instruments do you play?
Um, I, I would say only bass, yeah, very basic on bass. Just the part that I need to do, keep rhythm, yeah.
Keep it on the note. I really enjoy your style. I really enjoy that, and I think the question that comes to mind for second keys, that for me it seems like it's harder than just playing first keys because you need to listen so much. But your experience in the message, I love your answers you've given so far, especially what your influences are. But what is your opinion of music in the message?
My opinion, what you want to listen to, go visit that church. So if you want African, go visit the church that does African. If you want Punkster type style, go visit the Punkster church. It's a bit difficult for musicians because we actually post off duty, but get from them videos and that just to get to enjoy it. Every church is sovereign, and what the church and the pastor direction that they're going, let's do that.
I like that, Jason, and I like specifically how you're mentioning that certain things should be left for concerts. And I think if we've learned anything in the last 3 episodes, is that there's a way that you play in church, and there's a way that you play at home, and there's a way that you play at concerts.
True.
Don't confuse the 3, because that's where you get into trouble. All right, let's start here with the other musicians and ask them if they've got any questions for you, brother Chandra. Let's start with you.
Hey Jason, that was pretty good, man. I really enjoy that. I took a
Thank you.
few. I tried taking a few, but yeah, it was a bit difficult. Especially when you said you play the black notes. I was like, yeah, this guy going to the black notes. It's a bit difficult for me to play on those black notes. But one question I have for you is that, well, I have several questions, but the one question is that you started playing on F sharp, right? So then you used to use the transpose button. So
Oh yes.
I used to get nailed on the transpose button. Whenever I used to play in church, they're like, "What you doing? No, you don't touch the transpose button. You're gonna play in another key." So I used to make my mistakes in church. So it's even more embarrassing when you go back to the tapes and you listen. You're like, "Ah, that is me that made that sound at the back." Because I used to also start playing on second keys, and I also find it very difficult. But my question is for you: how did you get out of playing with the transpose button?
Okay, that's the answer is so I used to play already for a group called DMC, and what happened was we went to an event and the song was out of E, so I was playing out of F sharp, and my brother plays bass also. So we went and we would do one item, and with that the song, we started the song and I'm playing, so it's not my keyboard. So the keyboard I pressed and I said, okay, -2, which of course is E. And when I came and I'm asking now, okay, my brother plays and he's like, dude, you're not in the key. And I'm like, no, this is E. So because I know, but the bass, I just said, no, move. And he moved to F sharp. And when we played, the band was solid. The singers was way out. And it was so embarrassing for them because it was too high. So of course, it was very embarrassing for them. And from there, we sang the song, everybody went out and everybody disappeared. Like no one spoke to no one. And that's the day I decided I am no more going to use the transpose button. And I went, what's nice about what you said, you had someone there to say, don't press it. It's rather you have someone to tell you, do it this way, you will, whether you make mistakes, play out of the original key that's being sung. It's the best thing that can happen to you.
That's a good answer. And then one more thing is that we we hear that jazz is such a big thing in the message, and wherever you go, you have to go down to whatever church you go play at, you have to play what their style of music, and you have to play what they play. So I normally found it very difficult because, like I said, I have a variety of music, but I ate on jazz music. I took off on jazz. So whenever I used to feel like, oh, I'm just gonna play this one note and then I'll play it and then I'll get sorted out afterwards and tell me what did you play there? Was it jazz or what? What is your take on jazz music in a whole?
Okay. So for me, jazz is vast. Tando made a brilliant statement. He says that jazz blues comes from gospel, originated from gospel. The one thing that I feel in music, you have a general doctor, so it's the basic part of knowing in music. Then we say, okay, no, you want to become a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon. So I'm going into the jazz. So I'm going in that direction of jazz only. So for me personally, I feel when you're really harnessing around jazz, then it becomes a problem. But we all play some sort of jazz in our playing. Whether we're playing classical, whether we're playing blues, whether we're playing different types. 251 gets played by everyone. But it's jazz foundation. So it's just, as people go on, they tend to master it more, voicings around it. So yeah, I feel that I don't have a problem with it, but if you're actually making it that your major, it becomes a bit more problematic, yes.
And then one more question. I know second keys are something that I never got very used to because it was always difficult for me to choose a sound when it comes to certain music, especially like in a Pinkster church. They like their brass sounds and they use those different types of funny sounds. I'm like, guys, I can't play this. I'll just stick with a plain piano sound and you guys can just do your second voicing. What? How long did it take you to actually like, if I can say, master the second voicings?
Okay, so I haven't mastered it. I'm nowhere close to where I would want to be when it comes to a particular direction, as I would say. So if you're looking at Punkster, I normally play piano on it because the guys that does the second keys, they'll do it. But in our church, we don't really, because of the type of songs that we do, a pad or strings or organ, that's enough. So you don't want to go do too much because, again, you don't want to distract the spirit and also the atmosphere with people. So yes, I can do a bit of what Marx does, which is I would like to go into, but I also think based on the church that you're at, you should know what to do. Brother Q actually made a brilliant statement on that also.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Thanks, Brother Jason. Thanks, Brother Chandre. Sister Esther, on your side, do you have any questions?
Yes, also pleased to meet you, Brother Jason. My brother Michael actually goes to your guys' church, so that's the connection here.
Yes.
Yep. So playing second keys, I know you guys are playing it on a keyboard, whereas I actually played it on an organ, which is that with the feet doing and everything. What is the greatest challenge that you have found playing second? I know I had to work out making sure that I was playing the same chord as the pianist. You couldn't just play your own thing. So what's the greatest challenge that you found?
My greatest challenge would be the musician that I'm playing with if I'm doing seconds.
Yeah.
So the person that I'm playing with, normally that would determine how am I going to suffer. If it's someone that's very busy, sometimes it gives you, there's nothing for you to do because that person's busy, so the spaces are being taken, everything's being done. They're basically a soloist. So for what you're doing, and you have to listen to all the chords that he's playing. So you want to do movements with all the movements that he's doing. So if he's doing too much, as first of all, a pad sound. A pad has, if you leave, it has a bit of a delay. So imagine me trying to move in all those movements with that pad. So
Correct. Yeah.
it basically depends on the person I'm playing with.
I agree. I've had that experience too. Yeah. Thanks. Really enjoyed your piano playing. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for the questions, guys. And thanks, Jason. Definitely your playing is unique, the way you play. I love it. Continue playing like that in our church. Let's keep it there. I think the Lord has blessed you thus far, and will continue blessing in your playing. We're going to go over to Sister Esther now. Wow, that's some beautiful playing there, Sister Esther. Woo, please introduce yourself to us.
I've heard the word Pinkster tonight, and I think that was Pinkster playing. Anyway, hi, I'm Esther Greiling. I live in Edenvale in Gauteng, and I fellowship at Emmanuel Gospel Center. And yeah, I've been playing for many years. Let's just leave it.
So, Sister Esther, you play like a proper organ in church.
Yeah.
Foot pedals and all.
Yeah, it's actually very sad. Because I had to mute the foot pedals because it interferes with the actual bass guitarist.
Absolutely.
But the only problem is if I don't play the feet, my hands play like a piano, which is what you don't want when you're playing second keys. So I just mute the volume on the keys, on the pedals, and then I just continue playing with my feet. So then at least my hands behave themselves and they play like they're supposed to.
I remember a few years ago, Brother Spurgeon used to play the organ in our church, and then I was playing bass. Yeah. And man, it was a fight. You can ask Jason. It was a fight after every service. You know, why are you playing foot bass and so loud?
Yeah.
And the people are complaining the bass is too loud, and it's not me, it's the organ. So yeah, that is a bassist nightmare, to have an organ play foot pedals.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, the once or twice when the bass guitarist didn't pitch, I was very happy because it's really nice to play the bass and to actually hear what you're playing. It's a lot of fun. It's really good. Yeah.
Okay, so which organ did you play on in church? What's the name of the organ?
It's a Roland. I'm a Roland. Just putting it out there. Yeah, it's a beautiful instrument. It's I did do a combination of organ and strings, which you called the pad. So pre-service, it would be quite nice when you use the pad because it's a beautiful atmosphere sound. And like Brother Jason said earlier, it really does fill in those empty spaces. And when a song finishes up, you can still kind of keep the chord going, which gives a lovely continuity to the music. And I think it's a beautiful sound and plays a very lovely role in the orchestra.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Tell us a bit about your formal background in music.
Okay, so the short answer is there is no formal training. It sounds like I follow the narrative of many pianists and organists in the Message, where basically we faked our way through formal training. It's like, can you play it? And then we would play it. I know what I'm doing, but we don't know what we're doing. But yeah, I play by ear. I think the only thing that I got out of formal training was that the notes and the spaces spell face from the bottom up, and that's about all I know about reading music. There's not much else I can do with it. Yeah, so that's me with formal training. There is none. There's none.
Oh, okay. So do you play any other instrument besides the organ?
So obviously piano was my first. I started off on piano. I was about 6. My dad had a keyboard. I'm not even sure where it came from, but it was a square box thing, and it had a few keys on the one side and some buttons on the left that kind of played a chord, like an F chord or whatever. And I was about 6, and my dad taught me "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." I'm not sure that's a Message song, but that was my first song that I learned. And it was quite interesting because we lived in Durban at the time, and I was just thinking about it today, going back on my journey, where when you have a passion for something, not much can stop you. I was about 8, and at the end of every service, the pianist would be playing when the church is now leaving, and I would actually stand next to the piano and watch her hands, and then go back home. And funny enough, we had an organ that didn't work, so it was an ornament. And I would practice on the piano, on the organ. And when I was 12, I became the pianist there. And then when I was about 13, we moved up to Joburg and came to EGC. And when I was 16, I took over from Sister Betty, which was like no pressure, but then played for a couple of years there. And then when I was expecting my daughter, I was about 8 months expecting and couldn't really reach the keys anymore. That's when Wilton took over from me. And he was about 12, 13. So, I mean, he was a baby. And I mean, he's did a much better job than I could ever do. And then a couple of years later, there was a need that rose for an organist, and my husband had enough training in looking after 2 kids, and then I started playing the organ, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. It's a lot less stressful than playing the piano, and you can enjoy the music and the experience of playing. And did that for a couple of years, and now I've resigned and I just fill in. So that's my story.
A musician never resigns. Sorry about that. You cannot resign.
Okay.
You just step aside for a little while. That's all.
Step aside. Yeah.
I'm so glad to see. We've got another episode where we can throw Brother Walton under the bus again. So he started when he was 12.
Yeah, he was a baby. He was a baby.
A baby. Okay, great. Yeah. So, Brother Walton, you're hearing that. I'd like to see from the other people that's watching, the viewers, we heard Sister Esther's first song that she played. Please, I'd like to see you type down below. Tell us what's the first song that you learned to play. And I'm going to dibs. Mary Had a Little Lamb, so you have to choose another song. That's what I learned on the piano.
Oh, that's wonderful. Love it.
I thought, the thing with Mary Had a Little Lamb, I thought it was an easy one, to learn. And then I went over to guitar, and I went over to a few other instruments that I played, and I realized it's only easy on a piano.
On the other instruments, it's a little bit harder.
It's a little bit harder, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Sister Esther, we now, you've got a message background. You've grown up in the message. Your influence comes from within the message.
Correct.
What is your opinion then when it comes to genres, different genres of music?
I'm not quite sure what all the fuss is about when, we shouldn't play jazz and we shouldn't play country. I believe it's the spirit that is created when that song is played. What does it do to you as a person? Are you, is your body doing things it shouldn't do? But I really, seriously, that's how I judge things. Swaying is beautiful, but sometimes it can become on the wrong side of swaying. So I just firmly believe, just look at the response that happens. I'm not particularly worried about whether you're playing a jazz chord or playing in a Pinkster style or in a country style. It's really, is the response correct? Are you creating the right atmosphere? Is it conducive to worship? And so I'm okay with it. Yeah.
So with that said, I remember our church only having an organ. And I remember playing the bass for the first time in the church. And that Friday night we had a brothers fellowship, and this one brother said, he said to the pastor, the bass guitar needs to go. And the pastor said, why? And he says, because it makes me tap my feet, and that's not right. So
Oh dear.
he did not like that. He did not like that the bass guitar made him tap his feet, and that was not right. So I think you are 100% correct in saying that, we, since the 80s and the 90s, playing Only Believe on organ, absolutely, my opinion is Only Believe should only be played on an organ.
I agree with you.
Yeah, we've heard in different churches, there's a drum beat, there's a bass beat that comes in with the song, etc., etc. For me personally, my personal preference is only with the organ. There's no quote for this, so I cannot tell you, yea, verily, thus and so, it shall come to pass. But I'm just saying my personal preference. So Sister Esther, that is your, your opinion that I really appreciate. But now, from an aspect of a sister playing in an orchestra, how does that have any negative impact on you?
I wouldn't say negative. I think I'm just aware of, I don't know how to put this, but sometimes you do think to be quiet in the church and stuff like that. So I think sometimes when you have to voice your opinion, you are very careful with how you say it, because you don't want to come across as, I don't know, forward. But I believe, it's a role for anybody that's dedicated, who has a desire and who is capable of playing. And when I was playing, we had a beautiful relationship going on, and I had a great time. In fact, it was really nice playing with Wilton. We played for many years together, and there were times when I knew what the next song was going to be that he was going to play, because you just become in one accord. And I think you don't have to make it a sister or a brother thing. I think we're just musicians, and let's praise the Lord together. So that's my opinion.
I like that. I like that very much. Do you play in any key? Do you play in all the keys?
Well, I tend to avoid the black keys, Brother Jason. So my favorite key is probably F and C. The moment we start going to A flats and Bs, I start getting a bit of a sweat. There's no transpose button, so you got to just wing it, and you make it happen. So there's been times Wilton has actually said B, C sharp, F sharp, so you know where you're going. That happens. It happens.
And the last question I've got on that is that, I mean, you grew up in the era where there weren't numbers in the music. Nobody was shouting numbers in the band. So you're just saying now you got a C sharp from Wilton, so you better know what a C sharp is, or a
Exactly.
B flat.
I still don't understand that. Yeah, I still don't understand the numbers. You will lose me completely. You have to tell me F or C or G. It is what it is. I'm another generation. Yeah.
We're gonna record Brother Jason where he shows us exactly, if you're playing out of C, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3,
Oh,
this
that
is
would be
4,
great.
this is 5. I think for those people that don't understand, especially if you are learning from by ear, it is so helpful if you know the number system.
Well, I'm never too old to learn.
I'm going to say thanks, Brother Jason, for sharing that awesome video with us. Brother Chandra, do you have any question for Sister Esther?
I have a lot of questions, especially if you're playing the organ. I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
I remember when I came into Cape Town, I played at Pastor Godfrey's church, and his wife used to play the organ.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people used to be, oh, she's too loud, or she's too soft, or whatever the case would be. And she used to use all these different sounds. But like I enjoyed it. I would like literally like just not play the piano and just listen to her play because I
Oh,
literally enjoy it.
wow.
I can't play the organ at all, especially the foot part. So my first question is, how do you manage to play with both your hands and still your feet as well? Like I need to understand the dynamics behind this.
So in the beginning, when I started playing, obviously the hands are fine, okay, because you're used to doing that from the piano. But then, so my head's going to disappear at the moment because you would play like this, because you would watch your feet the whole time. Uh, Literally, you have to watch your feet. Um, but eventually, it becomes muscle memory. So it's literally like your foot knows the spacing between the pedals, and it counts itself up to the different the right pedal that it's supposed to be at. And if you hit the wrong pedal, you just make it slide onto the next pedal to make it sound like you meant it. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And the fact that you never had the number system back in your time, I know, like, I got a lot of flack from when I used to be like, guys, what can you play out of? Where are you going to after this? C sharp, and then where? And then they're like, no, 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 we can't be explaining the whole sentence for you or give you paragraphs of where you need to go. So, like, how'd you make it? How'd you manage to actually understand like where you need to go to without the number system?
Um, I think what helped is that I wasn't the only one that didn't know the number system. The whole orchestra didn't know the number system. So I think that really, really helped. So we all just knew. I think we just learned that in the key of F, it was your chords were B flat and C, and then if you wanted to get fancy, you could add an A minor or a D minor or a G or whatever. I think we literally just we did it analog. So like we'd actually learned how to memorize telephone numbers. We memorized keys, so we knew what to do. I hope that answers the question.
Sort of, yes, sort of. And then
Okay.
one more question, the voicing as well on an organ. I
Yeah,
know sometimes it's difficult to choose which voicing you want to make use of for a particular song, and sometimes the voicing change within the song as well. Like
correct.
I know I look at a lot of my artists that used to play. They used to change voicing within a song, and it made it sound so nice. And I want to know, like, how did you make use of that functionality of an organ? Because I believe
So
an organ has so much functionality, so there's a lot that you can make use of.
it is rather sad that the organ at the church wasn't actually used to its fullest potential. But what happened was I ended up with 3 sounds. One was the strings, which was called the pad, apparently. So that was played quite a bit pre-service because it's got a beautiful sound. But during the song service, organ was played. It was a very specific organ sound that I liked. But then there was a button that you could press that changed it from kind of the vibrato sound to a very clean sound. So there was no vibrato anymore. So it was actually quite easy, as you were going into a verse or into a chorus, you could just kind of slide your hand and press the button and it would change the sound. So that's like technology. Ooh, it was really cool. And even on the foot, there was the foot pedal, there was kind of a lever to the left or right that if you just touched it, it would make the sound do a little bit of a wobble, which was quite nice as well. So yeah, I just ended up with 3. I think, when you're in a big orchestra, you can't play around too much because, you'd end up not needing the rest of the orchestra because that organ is pretty cool. Yeah.
And then one more question. Have you ever seen the flute organ before?
The which organ?
The flute organ, the one that's like in the big orchestra with all the pipes and.
Oh, the pipe organ. Oh, yes, I have. And I mean, it's just that's on a level on its own. And
Have you?
I've never played it, but I drool. One day. Yeah, thanks.
That was my
Okay.
question. I was going to ask if you ever played on it because it
I'd
sounds
lo-
so beautiful.
it does. One day. But also a different story on its own. It's not like a normal organ. It's also got its
Yeah.
own interesting functions. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great stuff, Brother Chandre and Sister Esther. Sister Esther, Brother Spurgeon in our church used to play the organ, and he would play with his socks on so that he could slide his feet at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to let our
Do
secrets
you play
out.
with your socks?
Well, I take the shoe off. There's it's a lovely feel. You need to feel what's going on. It's quite a tactile thing. So yes, the shoe comes off. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Brother Jason, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Sister Esther, I love the way you play the organ.
Thank you.
My first question is, how was your transition from piano to organ, and what were the things that you did? Because look, playing piano, it's the dynamics of piano versus to organ. How was your transition, and what did you do going with that?
I think it was a good thing that I started off as in the piano. I think it actually was a great advantage when I went over to the organ because you now understand the stresses and the challenges associated with playing the piano. So you can hopefully pray about it and you can support the pianist. I think the biggest challenge for me in the beginning was not to play like a piano. Because you can't, that's not your role. So your fingers have to be less busy. You have to play longer chords. It's a supporting role. So I think it's pretty important that you don't fight with the pianist. And it didn't take me very long. I will admit it. It didn't take me very long. I actually enjoyed the less stress of not having to think about what's the key to this song because I could just like glance over and say, oh yeah, he had to figure it out. So it was pretty nice. So it didn't take me very long, and I was quite happy in the role of playing the organ. So it was nice. I really enjoyed it.
I actually like your answer with that because it especially when you play second keys, it allows you to actually listen to everybody. It
Correct.
takes less stress off you, so you can
Yes.
actually hear the fullness.
Yes.
That's actually very true.
100%.
Okay, and the
100%. Yes.
and the second question is on your bass when you're playing bass. Do you like do the movements? Do you do a lot of movements, or you just go like to the notes that you have to go to, or do you do a whole lot of passing chords?
I actually find I play rhythm with my feet. I literally, if my foot doesn't play the rhythm, it messes with my hands. It's this weird thing that happens. So I literally will play going up the I don't know, go F, G, A, B flat. My foot would actually do all the ups and downs that my left hand would usually do if I was playing the piano. It's literally like my foot becomes the left hand if you were playing the piano.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what it does.
Ah.
Last question though.
Okay.
What do you do with your left hand? How close is your voicing? So what do you do with your left hand?
My left hand is pretty still, so it would be playing a lot of chords. If it was a Foster song, you know, the pinky and the thumb might be doing a little bit of rhythm just to keep momentum. But in general, my left hand is pretty still, just moving up and down the keys to the different chords. So that's my left hand. Yeah, it's a bit lazy.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I think that's it for this evening. I don't know if anybody has any more comments that they'd like to add.
Well, I just think this forum is amazing. So I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've enjoyed watching. I've loved the stories that are so similar between everybody that has been on the platform so far. And I wonder if it isn't the way the Lord uses people. Is that, you know, it's all usually by ear, and maybe that's His way of you know, bringing in dimension to His music, His people, His bride, and I think it's wonderful. I've really enjoyed that, learning more about that.
Jason?
Okay. From my side, I really love the forum. I've learned so much from episode 1. I'm grateful to actually be a part of this also. Also, just for guys that's coming up, I feel that the first thing that we should really go to in playing in church is know that it's a ministry. It's another part of ministering. So the one thing that you want to do, you can have all the skills, but we want to be able to create an atmosphere.
Correct.
And have the anointing.
Correct.
Yeah, and then from my end, to all musicians out there, remember you a role model to someone. So especially young oaks, they're looking up to you guys, they're seeing what you guys are doing. Especially me, I'm still young. I'm still looking up to the older guys. I'm still picking up. I'm still stealing from these guys. I'm learning. So yeah, I love what you guys are doing here, and I'm really enjoying it.
Oh wow, wasn't that amazing? We learned so much from the keyboardist every single week, and you know, Jason just giving us the theory behind the numbering system. I enjoyed that very much, and I wish somebody had taught that to us back when we were starting out. So if there's any musicians out there that's just starting out and you didn't know how it works, I hope that makes sense, and you're going to start playing according to the numbering system. If you're playing by ear, alternatively, if you've been taught on a formal basis and you didn't know about the numbering system, well, now you have it, and this is how we use it. It's very easy to communicate in the church, in a band, and just say to someone, hey, we're going back to the 1, we're going to the 5, we're going to the 4. I think that's quite important. But next up, we've got the bass guitarists, and it's quite an interesting lineup. You see, the best thing about these interviews is that nobody knows who they're going to be paired with. So when they get onto this interview, they don't know if the next person is, you know, better than them, has got formal training, has been playing for many years, or just started playing, if it's their main instrument or if it's their second instrument. And I think that's the best thing about these interviews, because as we go through them, we just see some of the people's reactions, and they're like, wow, we didn't know this guy plays bass, we didn't know this guy plays guitar, or whatever else it is that they're doing. So I think you're also going to be pleasantly surprised by what we're going to show you next. Enjoy.
Wow, Brother Victor, that was some good playing there with Brother Q that we had on last week as well. Wow,
Thank you
that's
so
totally,
much.
totally amazing. Don't you just want to tell us a bit about yourself? Where are you from? And how long have you been playing?
My name is Victor Matlangu. I was born here in Pretoria, raised in Pretoria and Centurion, but it was in between Pretoria and Middelburg. I spent a lot of my childhood in Middelburg because of my dad's ministry. And that's how I also got into bass because of church.
Mhm.
And I still spend most of my weekends in Middelburg. Although this lockdown has kind of caught us off guard. So it's the first time, I was actually telling my brother that it's the first time we've actually spent so many weekends in Pretoria, Centurion, like all of us at home, or Gauteng rather.
Yeah.
In all, like as long as I could think of, we've never spent so much time or so much Sundays at home. And the first couple of Sundays were weird, but I'm slowly getting hang of it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, sir.
So tell us, how long have you been playing, and what formal training do you have?
I've been playing for about, I'd say, 8 years. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any formal training.
Mm-hmm.
I play by ear, actually. Although Brother Q, the previous brother, the one that I shot the video with, had tried to, give me some insight on, proper training, and I just never got around to it. And a part of me it's been because I'm slightly lazy, and I was just so comfortable with, what I know already and what I was willing to learn with
Yeah.
just my ear alone. So
Yeah.
no professional training, but I am looking forward to actually being brave enough to tackle that head first.
Well, what I've heard so far from you playing, I think you can offer some professional training to the juniors out there,
Oh,
definitely.
thanks, man. I'm super humbled. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tell me
Appreciate it.
something. Do you
Yes,
play
sir.
any other instruments?
Yeah, I started off with the piano.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how it happened is that growing in church, if my brother played keys, so if my brother wasn't around, it'd be a thing of, hey, go play piano. And I mean, I didn't have a choice because we didn't have a band then. It was just my brother, and he would sequence drums on the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and if he wasn't around for some other reason, they would force me to go there. And I didn't know anything, not much though. I only knew one key, which I still use today, and it was F sharp. It was F sharp. It was F sharp. So I tried to make it work with, what I had, and then I started being introduced to acoustic guitar. In fact, how I got into bass guitar was my first ever guitar was given by a friend of mine. I was like around about what, maybe 6, 7. It was a small nylon guitar. I think you might actually even know him, Brother Eliezer.
Yeah.
Yes, he gave me my first guitar, and I didn't even play that guitar for a good, I'd say, 4 years until I started playing keys, and then slowly after that, I got the love for acoustic guitar because I felt that acoustic guitar was one thing that you could just take anywhere, whether it's at the back of a car boot and your car is stuck, or you're at the beach with your friends that just want to worship and have fun. That was my insight when it came to acoustic guitar, and that's why I wanted to learn it. But there was just the two, just piano and acoustic guitar.
Oh wow. But I
Yes,
think
sir.
it really helps you a lot. I've heard you playing some chords there and your chord progressions and all that. It sounds
Yeah,
so clean and so nice. I mean,
I appreciate
it
it.
definitely with 8 years of experience, I think you've achieved a whole lot more than a whole lot of musicians out there.
Thank you
And I
so
think
much.
that's something to be really proud of. So,
Yeah,
from that perspective, growing up in the church and playing bass, I want to know from you, each church has got its own thing that they allow. Some church will allow, to
yeah,
go off a little bit, and others won't allow that. I mean, I heard you play at Eagles Rise and a
yeah,
few of the concerts that I've heard you at, and you've managed to control your bass so much so that I didn't even think you could play bass well because you've
yeah,
just kept it to the standards that needed to be played, which is for me a
yeah,
great talent to be able to give the music exactly what it needs at that
yeah.
point in time. So tell me, what is then your opinion then about playing bass in different churches and playing in different setups?
So it's a very tricky subject, that one, because I come from a very I don't want to say loud church. We are loud, but our music really makes sense. And the backgrounds that I grew up playing in, I started really working on bass a lot with the Skosana family.
Yeah.
So with the weddings that we would do, and it's always the kick and the bass. If the kick doesn't hit your stomach, then the kick is not like on. It's not effective enough. So it gets tough. It gets really tough when you move into a situation where you're very limited as a bassist. Not in terms of whether you're playing, but just your volume in itself. Because it really bothered me when I first got approached a situation like this, because I was just so used to hearing myself loud and clear,
Yeah.
which made sense because I understand that what I'm playing, I definitely know that the guy sitting at the back there, he also can hear it. That was my
Yeah.
outlook on it. So it 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 was a tough one. You mentioned Eagles Rise. I think that was one of the first projects where I was really pushed out of my comfort zone, because for the first time I had to, really stick in the lines. I didn't have, much creative freedom, which to a certain extent I almost felt handicapped, but I
Mm.
understood it was, for the greater good. So it was the
Mm.
first gig that I can safely say that I kept it locked. It was in between the boundaries, just so that the project can, achieve that objective and collectively sound good. So
Yeah.
yeah, it becomes very tricky hopping around from different churches. Like I know going to Tony's church, the other guy that his church is also a bit strict. So when you play, it's all about sticking in between the lines. And but you find very charismatic churches, and that when you go there, you are free to express yourself. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be the loudest, don't get me wrong. But I mean, if you feel like having an arpeggio right there, and if you know that it will sound good and not disturb the whole objective or whatever, then you can do it. And you can do it without the pianist or organist looking at you weird, like, hey brother, why are you playing jazz music in church? Because it becomes very sensitive. Sensitive.
Yeah, I think that's very good. I think it's something that every single bassist sitting here this evening, and we've got 4 bassists actually sitting here. So we've all experienced that at
they
some
can
point.
all relate. Yeah.
Play within the lines, play within the guidelines. I'm going to quickly ask our panel here if they've got any questions for you. I'll start with Brother Jude. Brother Jude, do you have any questions for Brother Victor?
Hey, Victor, I enjoyed you playing so much, bro, man. Wow, it was nice and it was nice and clean, and the harmonics and your finger style is like it's on point, bro.
Appreciate it.
What I want to ask was which bass players, we all have our gospel bass players that we follow. Who do you follow, and who taught you to play bass, and so on?
So, okay, I'll start off by who I follow the most would be South African would be Begam Tetwa. I really started following him from the time that I started playing bass, and I met him a couple of times at different events and stuff, and I actually started a relationship with him. I actually really enjoyed his type of music, although he's transitioned from being a backup bassist to a soloist and an artist in his own right, and of which is something that I also would like to achieve in the long run. Not just be a backup bassist, but actually pursue my own dreams and stuff. And who taught me bass? It's a complicated story, but let me try to stick to the time. What happened is that I told you my brother used to play keys, so he taught me the number system. He bought me my first bass and he taught me the number system. And that's how I started going about it. I used to watch a lot of DVDs like Joy Celebration, The Gaithers, different genres. I really didn't limit myself to, just a specific type of gospel. So it was different genres. And then that's how I started learning how to play bass. But my bass escalated when I was in a situation that I didn't plan to be. It was a wedding. I don't know if I'm allowed to share this. I'll just share it anyway.
Absolutely. Go for it.
It's actually funny. I was at a wedding, right? I was not planning on playing. I was just probably around about maybe 9 months into having my first bass. I was at a wedding at one of the biggest churches in Gauteng, Message Believers churches. It's Brother Q's church, Mami Lodi. And it so happened that Brother Q's sister was getting married. So it was a wedding, and I was there with my family, and the bassist was late. That's the whole problem. The problem starts whenever the bassist is late. And they were like, okay, cool, we need a bassist because the bride is about to come in. And my brother was like, he plays bass, guys, take him. I was like, dude, I'm not ready. So I found myself on stage, and it's a huge church. I'm looking at so many people, and I'm on stage with people that I don't know, a bass that I'm not familiar with, and the only person that was familiar with was Wu. Long story short, the chorus leader was one of Wu's brothers, and my bass was not good at all. I can also admit that. It was terrible. It was really terrible. And he came to me and he was like, my brother, this, I'm not going to mention the name. He's like, this brother's going to come through and assist you. I was like, assist? What do you mean assist? Can't you just tell me that he's gonna come through and play? And that really broke my heart. And the brother came through, and I had that walk of shame, walking down that stage. And I told myself that I never, ever, ever wanted to experience that again. I never wanted, although it came from a good heart, maybe it didn't mean to break my heart, but from that day, and I started practicing a lot, listening to different genres, staying up late. I almost even failed my grade 11 year. And then my mom confiscated. It was bad.
Yeah, that's
really
dedication.
Dedication, a whole lot of dedication. But it was all just to prove that single brother wrong. And about a year later, the same because of Dean, I had started doing gigs at weddings. About a year later, the same brother approached me. He was like, "Hey, man, do you want to be part of this Kasana family?" I was like, "Wow." Thank you. I'd appreciate it. And then that stimulated my bass. From there, after joining the family, I got exposed to different, elements of playing and styles of playing, compared to what I'm actually my comfort zone, which was church then. So that's that little part of how I learned how to play bass. Oh yeah, I have to give credit to one brother Eliezer. He really, really stimulated my growth as well. He taught me a couple of things and introduced me to different bassists such as Victor Wooten and Stanley Clark, and musicians that I wasn't too familiar with. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I'm done. I feel like I've been talking a lot. That's it. Yeah, so
Nice.
that's about it. Yes, sir.
Great stuff. So let's go to Brother Shane quickly. Brother Shane, do you have any question for Brother Victor?
Not at the moment. What do you find most challenging about the bass? About being a bass player, especially in the band?
Yes.
Because most times there's a song, it's all about the bass.
Yes.
Do you also find it's quite challenging because you have to play all the time? If you stop playing, then it sounds like the sound or the song is just not the same.
Yes. I'd say yes, that sometimes is a challenge, but it only becomes a challenge if it's a song that I'm not familiar with. And maybe if we're going into a concert and we had limited time to rehearse for the concert, and I'm not too comfortable with the song, it becomes a huge challenge, because even though I have to be there all the time, I will find myself somehow trying to play the correct notes, but I still wouldn't be comfortable enough to, just be free and express myself, musically within the lines. So I think that's my biggest challenge when it comes to playing bass, and your bass line has to be rather consistent.
Yes, good.
Okay, great stuff. Thanks, brothers. We're going to go over to Brother Jude now. Brother Jude, wow, man. Gee whiz, that was some good playing there. Don't you just want to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from.
God bless Brother Elton. My name is Brother Jude Plate from Port Elizabeth, but currently residing in Sasolburg.
Sasolburg.
Yeah.
Brother Jude, I know you for a little bit, and I know that this is not the only instrument you play. As far as I'm concerned, you play the bass very well, but you also play the keyboard very well. Which other instruments can you play?
With Dalton, a little bit guitar. Yeah, that's it. It's just guitar, piano, and bass. But yeah, I don't consider myself a piano player or guitar player at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So humble. You know, if all I can say is if you can play a piano alone without accompaniment while the chorus leader is leading, I think then you're relatively good enough. And I've heard you play alone, so I think that's good enough. Tell us a bit about your formal training, Brother Jude.
With Dalton, no, I haven't had any formal training. It's just YouTube and yeah. Whenever I go like to conventions and stuff, I usually like make recordings of other bassists or other musicians, and then I steal their stuff and I make it my own. Yeah.
Gee, was
Yeah. So that's
you never recorded me or stole my stuff, so I don't know what happened there.
you know what, Dalton? I've only seen you play in Kimberley once, eh?
Really?
Yeah.
Shucks. It's brother Paul that's always taking the bass away from me. You know, like Brother Victor just gave us that example now. You know, when somebody comes on stage and takes the guitar from you, I'll have to speak to him. So
Yeah.
tell me, you playing music for quite a long time, and I see you playing you on stage. Where was this? I couldn't recognize where was this recording that you were playing.
Dalton, this was actually a video from 2 years ago, end of 2018, December at Pastor Raymond Thompson's church's convention
Ah,
in Conca,
okay.
Rustenburg. Yeah,
Yes, Conca.
yeah. So I was playing with Brother Marion there, and yeah,
Brother
that's fun.
Tando. I
Yeah,
see Brother
Brother
Tando.
Tando. Yeah,
Brother Jaren is leading.
that's right.
Ah,
Yeah,
awesome. Awesome. I think it's so lovely that we're getting to recognize all the musicians that we can see. I think that's really a good thing. So
Mm.
you playing there, Jesus is a mighty God. Tell me a bit about your style of bass. I know you can play a few styles, but which style do you prefer?
You mean like genre of music or like playing style, like slap finger style, pick,
Yeah,
or
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, your playing style.
preferably finger style. I try to stay away from slap bass as much as possible. Um, yeah, and then like African music, yeah, I'm not too good with that, but I prefer like Punkster music. I love Punkster on bass. Pentecostal style,
Yeah,
with
we
triplets and so
a
on.
little while ago we just had the organists on or pianists and second keyboardists, and they spoke a lot about the Pinkster style. And I know that for a bassist to be able to play that kind of style is quite. It's not easy. It looks easy, but it's not necessarily easy because the chord structure may be easy, but the finger movement is quite
Yeah,
fast.
it's the triplets and so on. It's quite thick.
Yeah, no, that's good. Which guitar are you currently playing with?
Dalton, I own. I've never ever owned a bass that's worth more than 3,000 rand. It's a Squire. It's a 4-string Squire bass.
Oh wow, okay. And you
Yeah.
make it sound like a 40,000 rand guitar.
No, but in that video, I'm playing. It's a different bass guitar. I'm not sure which bass that was, but yeah, that's a Squire bass 4-string. I prefer 5-string though.
Okay, you prefer a 5 string. Okay, I
Yeah.
think yeah, that covers, most of the stuff. I think the last question that I wanna hear from you is what is your opinion of music in the church?
My opinion of music. Could you just the question is a bit vague, man.
It's meant to be a vague question. You need to answer it as you understand it. So you must tell me if you understand it as do you like genres, different genres coming through in church? Don't you like it? So just give us, a bit of expound on that.
Music in the church. Hey, welcome. Um, I'm eating whatever blank here, man.
Okay, let me help you along. Let me help you along
Yeah,
while you're still trying to figure it out. So a lot of churches, for instance, you've seen in Kimberley, is a lot of upbeat kind of music,
Punkster
and
style.
then yes, and then you go to other churches where it's not like that. So the bass is always a contentious instrument in a band. And there's always, some people feeling it's too loud, and some people feel you're doing too much, and some people feel, so when I ask the question, that is the direction I'm coming from. What is your opinion about that kind of thing?
Yeah, music in the church, I think what I realized was playing in different churches and so on. Every church has a different, like every church is sovereign. So, they all have their different styles of music. Some churches, they do like Pinkster, and then you have some churches that do like your youth song type of music. Some churches do your hymns and so on. So I think it's as a musician, you must just be true to you must just be true to the style of music that that church that the church prefers, basically. So don't do triplets and stuff in a church where they sing hymns and so on. But yeah, man, all churches are different, and you should just respect that wherever you go. Yeah.
I think that's a true sign of maturity, to be able to distinguish between, when to play triplet and when not to play it. I think, yeah. I still need to mature to that level. I'll play it whenever I can, if I can play it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to quickly ask the other guys if they've got any questions for you. I'll start with Brother Victor. Brother Victor, do you have any questions for Brother Jude?
Yes, actually, he mentioned something, Brother Jude. You mentioned something about stealing stuff. So I want to know, like, what is the process? Do you normally like take a video and then go home and check it out and see how they did it, or do you actually go to the bassist after the whatever gig or the show or the church service and ask them, hey, brother, what did you do there? Like, can you show me? What is the process behind stealing the stuff?
Yeah, actually, both methods which you mentioned. If I can get a hold of the bassist afterwards, then I go straight to them, and then and then I'll show them the clip. I'll say, this is what you did. Can you please show me how to do this? If not, and then I'll go home, listen to the clip, and then try to play it in slow mo if I can, and break down the lick or whatever. Try to play it as is. Yeah, and then when I listen to when I just listen to any gospel artist, man, like Israel Houghton or Fred Hammond, those basses, they're quite they're quite hectic. So it's the same process as well. Like if I hear something, something good, and then I cut that section out and I play it on repeat over and over, and then or even the entire song, I try to play it as is, because I believe that's how you learn. You learn by imitating other guys, and then whatever you learn, you take that and you make it your own.
And then I want to ask you a question about what gospel music do you prefer? Do you prefer American gospel? And what type of gospel? Is it your alternative? Or is it, do you prefer South African gospel, your up tempo? What influences your style of playing?
I like American gospel. Contemporary, right? I prefer that music more.
You like Fred Hammond and them?
Yeah, Fred Hammond.
Your bass actually sounds so warm. Sorry to interrupt you. Your bass sounds like really, really, really warm. You're doing just a 145, right? 145. Your progression in that video that you were doing. It was just simple 145, but it really sounds warm. Hence, I just asked what type of music influences you're playing. Yeah, but it really sounds amazing. Yes.
Thanks, Victor.
Okay, great stuff.
It's a pleasure.
Let's go over to Brother Shane. Brother Shane, do you have any questions for Brother Jude?
No, I don't. I don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay. Great. Okay, we're going to start with your video now, and then from there we'll go over to the questions. We'll try and make it as quick as possible.
Okay, no problem.
Wow, that was amazing. Brother Shane, welcome. Don't you just want to introduce yourself to us quickly?
First of all, to God be all the glory, Brew, for everything. Talents come from God. Thankful to be in the message, and it's been a hard, long journey. I am from Cape Town. I live in Retreat, Cape Town. I fellowship with Pastor Beckett. Very loving man. You all know Pastor Beckett.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to say I'm a spare wheel. And I like the song that says there's no great one among us. And I remember when we started off with the message, we were all just eager to be able to want to do something for God. And that is still the desire of my heart. It's not about ego. It's not about the who, the big me and the small, this one and that one. That is not what it is in the message. Brother Barnabas taught us humility. And we just trust God for the leadership every time.
Thanks, Brother Shane. I've got a short little story to tell you. Brother Shane was the first bassist that I admired, the first bassist I looked up to in the 90s. In the 90s, okay. So that is how far back we go. And in the 90s, he was the bassist that the first time in Brother Beckett's church, a sister came up and she rendered an item. And he was the only instrument playing with her while she was singing. Now you must know, we grew up in an era of only organs and maybe a guitar. Suddenly, we're sitting in a church where somebody's rendering an item accompanied by a bass guitar. It was totally something new and amazing. And I saw this way back. I was still in my teens and I was totally blown away. And I've always looked up to Brother Shane. He's got an amazing music talent, not only in bass guitar. From my perspective, I've seen him play piano and I've heard him play guitar. He plays it down. He's very humble. He says it's a spare wheel. But man, if you could be a spare wheel like he's a spare wheel, everybody would use you as a main wheel. So Brother Shane, I've just got into all the questions I wanted to ask you about your instruments that you play. Have I missed anything there about any other instruments that you play?
First of all, thanks for the compliment, bro. You're putting me under tremendous pressure here. Can I just quickly add on that what you just said? For me, it was always being a musician, especially in the message. It's all about, it's a ministry. It should be done in simplicity. You should know when to play simple notes. The eye must sit at the back. The ego stays at the back of the door. And there's a lot of hard work during the week sitting with your instrument, and also a lot of hard work. Keep practicing, because you do not want to give God and His people a wishy-washy service. You don't just want to come there and the only time you pick up your instruments on a Sunday. Because when we played in the world, that's just not how we did things. So why should we give God second best? And besides trying to work hard on your instrument, there's also the balance of where you have to fast and pray, read the word, get anointed, and then you play. And then something happens. Then you become very sensitive. Because then it's not entertainment, then it's ministering, because there are people sitting in the service with needs. and people come prepared. People also fast and pray, and you as a musician do not want to disturb people's spirits. It also boils down to if you can buy a good instrument, a good amp that's not gonna distort. It's very good. You do not want to disturb the Holy Ghost. You want to sound nice. You want to feel comfortable. Those are all small technical things. You want to know how to tune your guitar before the service, how to tune your amp. You want to know is your volume right with the other instruments. Now, can I just add something here that you were talking about volume earlier. Now, the problem is, it's same like in Brother Branham's day, you will hear a lot of Brother Branham's recordings. Most of them, a lot of them aren't so clear. It's because of the financial situation. Brother Branham refused a lot of money and stuff like that. So same within the message. When we came in the message, a lot of us, I was lucky to have my father's instruments, but there are other churches that never had instruments. And with that, we never had mixes, those big mixes that people use in the world, one on stage, one at the back, to be able to control the bass player or the volume. So with the result, the bass players received a lot of flack. You are too loud, only because there wasn't a sound engineer on stage or at the back to control the volume. You see, simply because the message, we do not go after flashy money stuff, and we keep it simple. And with it always, because the bass guitar, it's a loud instrument. If you play on a top string, it really can drown maybe. It's only because we never had mixes.
Yeah.
It's only one, you know. Is anything else true?
Yes, you're talking about flashy things, and that guitar of yours is very flashy. Tell us a bit about that story behind that guitar, please.
Yeah, like I always said, you know what, like I said, I used my father's Fender. I was lucky to have a dad who had a band. And then as the guitar got older and the instruments, because my father used it over weekends in his disco band, and obviously those guys really pushed up the volume, and then the instruments just didn't sound so good anymore. And like I said to you, I'm not going to give God second best. And as I started to work, I had a bit of money, then I could buy an instrument knowing I do not want to sit in a service where that thing disturbs the other musicians, it disturbs the service. This guitar, first of all, I had Fender, I had Ibanez, I had a Court, and then I had an Ibanez sound gear, and then I thought it's time to upgrade. And my motive is only just to give God the best, not for myself, but to give God the best. And then I had a choice between a Fender 5-string and then this Yamaha. And it was quite a battle. And then a buddy of mine, Sean Manuel, is a drummer in Johannesburg. He said, Shane, there's a Nathan East Yamaha bass. And I know what Nathan East can do. Most of you, the musos, you know Nathan East. And he does 700 recordings a year, if not more. He's the most asked for bass player. And then I did some homework on this guitar, and I went to come here, what does Nathan East do with this bass guitar? And I did some research, and I discovered that he designed this specific bass with Yamaha for bass players. And I immediately, when I listened to what this thing could do, I thought, wait. Sorry, I've played Fender all my life. Let's make a change. I said to Sean, give me the contact of the guy in Johannesburg. Let me speak to him over the phone. And I said to him, what is this guitar going to cost me? And he told me. I transferred the money into his account, into the music shop's account, and then they posted it onto me. And ever since, I fell in love with this bass guitar. And I have an SWR 4x10 400 watt amp and a 4x10 SWR speakers. And it's only not to show off, not to outplay anybody else. I want nice sound. If I play a certain gospel song, it must sound beautiful. My contribution must be beautiful to the rest of the band. And like I've always said, I'm not going to give God second best because we never gave the world second best.
Sure. That's so amazing, Brother Shane. And I know that God's going to lay it on your heart to bless me with that guitar someday. Hallelujah.
I'm about to retire, Bruce. You never know.
So, Brother Shane, do you have any formal training whatsoever?
To be honest, no. I started the guitar when I was 5 because of my dad. When my brothers used to go to school, my father would sit and practice these pop songs, and he would look after me, and then I would sit opposite my dad for some reason. I would watch his fingers, not knowing why. And then the minute my father would put the guitar down, I would grab the guitar, and sometimes he would get angry with me because that was his bread and butter. Because the minute he puts it down, I would grab it and I would watch his fingers, and I would ask him, Dad, is this what you played? I remember I'm still short, and I was even shorter then. The guitar was too big. I couldn't strum the guitar, but I managed to be able to put my fingers down on the fretboard. And then my father would always look at me like, interesting. And then I would ask, is that the right way of putting my fingers down to play a chord? And then he would show me, no, this way. And then my father would say, oh, I'm quite interested in the guitar. And then he would give me short lessons, saying the top fret, first fret, that's F. You go down, you get F sharp, you get G. See, he made sure I knew what was the name of the chords. You see, the basic, very important. And then I learned the basic G, the basic C, the basic D. And then as time went on, as I got older, I used to sit with my father's band members that played in nightclubs with him. And then they would show me bigger chords, like G7 or stuff like that. And then I knew I had smaller chords under wraps. And then I would move over to the bigger chords, the more jazzy feeling chords. And then I would just work for weeks and months just on those chords. You see?
Yeah.
How I grew, but when I was 14, we formed a band, a gospel band called Reach Out. And then my eldest brother, Tony, who's sitting right next to me, has been a tremendous blessing in my life in every form of way. And my brother Norman also here sitting next to me on the sax. It's all my brother, I call him my brother like no other, you know. And they've also been a tremendous blessing in my life. And when we were 14, my brother Tony said to me, Shane, I think you should get on the bass. I said, I've got no idea how to play this instrument. Can't I just go on the guitar? I am more of a guitar player. I should be okay on the guitar. And he was on the drums and he insisted and threw me into the deep end. And somehow, I don't even remember how I managed to play bass, where it started. But when I checked again, I could play bass. And ever since I was the bass player, you know. And how I grew in this instrument, we would go to concerts, a lot of the Cape Town bands, if I can put it amongst the colored people that were the best musicians around here. And there was this guy, Zaki, I think Zaki Town. Zaki was his name, short guy also, but he had an eye in his, oh, this guy could play, and I admired him. So, and that is how I used to hear what other bass players would do. I would go home and sit and try and remember what they did. And if I managed to remember, I would try and improve on what they played. And it was never a journey of where you're lazy. Otherwise, you're a normal player. You need to work hard. This is unfortunately, music is a very ungrateful thing. You always have to practice. After service, I have to come back in the week and practice. If you don't, the other people can figure it out. They can hear something's not right here. So you always have to work hard, you know, to be able to stay up, sort of perfect your skill, and to be able to sound good and in your right place as a musician.
Yes.
And for me, I also started to find out what is my role as a bass player in a band. What am I supposed to do? And then you listen to the guys who know how to do it. And then you find, you know, your job is just to keep the rhythm with the drummer. You keep it tight. You don't interfere with the bass player when he plays his melody, unless the song is written like that. We will always put the drummer and the bass player, we keep it tight. The guys in front, the sax player, the guitarist, the piano player, they are the guys who do the playing, and we just keep the song tight for them at the back. And ever since my way of how you play it, and I think there's not another guy that I personally think that does it perfect is Nathan East.
Yeah.
No ego. No ego. Less is more. He says less is more. I've studied his bass DVD, The Business of Bass. He knows when to play. He knows when to lay back. He knows when to give the other musicians scope and give them a chance to be able to do what they learned in their room or practice. So you become unselfish as a bass player. You need to listen to what other people do and see if you can make that song sound pretty and try and blend in, not overpower the other musicians in that band. That is the best what I learned, you know.
I think, Brashane, I think also from my perspective is that your vast knowledge in other instruments really gives you an upper hand in reading the band as well as you do. I think a lot of bassists that play bass only, and they think that their instrument must be the loudest, is because they don't understand the keyboard, they don't understand, you know, the drummer, they don't understand the guitarist, and all they want to hear is that bass coming through, you know. So that could be one of the issues. And I think for the sake of our viewers, you sent me a guitar track that I put onto our group with the other musicians, and I asked them to guess who it is, and they all guessed incorrect. I'd like to play that also for our viewers, but then I really hope that you'll be able to send us a piano track that we can put in, because I'd really like to just, you know, I want to expose somebody that's been a role model to me from a musical background, and see that this guy is exactly like he says, Nathan East, which I also appreciate very much. I appreciate Nathan East very much because he wasn't only playing bass when he played with the other bands. You know, he played with a few other bands, and he was playing a whole lot of other instruments. When you see the back of the CD back in the 90s, when you check the back of the CD, you check the first, you've got first keyboards, you've got a name. Then you've got maybe sax, you've got a name. You've got guitar, you've got a name. Then they've got 10 other instruments. And all of them are Nathan East, Nathan East, Nathan East, Nathan East, Nathan East. That was the skill, you know, that we grew up with and saw from him, and I think I saw that from you as well. Jude, have you got a question for Brother Shane?
Mind blowing. No, I was gonna ask which other styles of music you play, but yeah, clearly there's a wide variety. So yeah, my question is null and void. Yeah, so
Brother Shane, from that perspective, I think just leading on to Brother Jude's question, which style of music do you prefer playing on the bass?
It's very difficult to say for the simple reason, as a musician in the Message, what I've done, because we have different age groups in the Message, we have different approaches of chorus leaders in the Message. I've made my business to listen to Jimmy Swaggart. I've listened to Dallas Holmes, people like the Gaithers. So you also want to hit a balance. If people want to play a really soft anointed song, like a Jimmy Swaggart song, like the Bounce and the Van Arders always used to really sing so well, and the Laymans, all those great musicians. So I always used to see, okay, they like that style, and I would concentrate on just working on that type of music. So if it is in a service that maybe Nathaniel Van Arder, who was their bass player, if he's not available, then I know I've equipped myself to be able to play that style of music. And then I would listen to other brothers and say, okay, what do they like? Some people like Pentecostal, like fast trap koortjies. And then I would study Pinkster. So what you actually do, you make sure you become an all-round musician, a versatile musician, a versatile bass player, like my brother Tony's telling me now, versatile. So if even like an African beat, I was listening to that song, My God is Good, oh, our God is good, oh. And you listen to that line there, you know, and I was sitting and studying that African sort of feel of a bass line. So what you do, you widen your bass playing vocabulary. So I don't do one style, because you, as a musician, if somebody comes up and want to sing a Ron Canoli song, I need to be able to play a Ron Canoli song. If somebody wants to sing an Alvin Slaughter song or a Don Moen song, for example, so you have to go make it your business to become that versatile musician where you can sort of have a bit of knowledge of each and every style of music, which makes you actually, you feel confident that you can actually accompany somebody.
Yeah,
if it makes sense.
absolutely. I think that answers the question very well. Brother Victor, from your side, do you have any questions for Brother Shane?
Yes, I do. I wanted to ask, you mentioned, you mentioned something about, the sound quality in churches, just in general, and sometimes the bassists getting, flack for being too loud. Do you think that in the Message, the music ministry is being supported the way it should be with respect to, resources being allocated to equipment that would make us musicians, sound better and, give the best for God, as you mentioned it. Because, I mean, we don't want to be mediocre. What I found strange while growing up is that I didn't understand why Pentecostals and all other churches had such great sound, and you could walk into the church and you'd feel like you're in a concert, but then you get back to your home church and we just we have two hybrid speakers. Do you think that adequate resources are being allocated to the music ministry? And if not, do you think there would be a point in whenever that all the other ministries would actually take the music ministry actually quite serious?
Very, very good question. I hope I'm going to be able to answer you correctly.
Yes.
Every assembly is different. You find certain assemblies only have maybe 30 people, so maybe the tithing might be small. And some churches have 300 people plus 400. The tithing might be big, so the pastor can afford. I'm a big fan also of our brothers and sisters in Trinidad, the believers over there. We've seen that orchestra. And it seems a brother Van Dale, I think, that's his name. You can see all of those musicians that are well equipped. They have top of the range violins and cellos and trumpets and saxophones. But if you look at the magnitude of the church, and I think he loves music so much, and I compliment him for that. He's actually given back to the young people to keep the young people in the church. Now you might find maybe in another church, maybe the tithing is also good, but the pastor maybe wouldn't want to spend on the music for some reason. Maybe he's scared people's going to go out of line. I really don't know. I cannot answer that. I, for example, feel it would be nice if a church can afford it to at least buy a bass player set of strings, or a sax player reeds, or a guitarist some strings, just to help, especially if that musician is willing to play for God and to do something in the church. And if the church knows that's a struggling brother, if they can support him. But now you find a person like myself, I buy my own strings because I have a certain taste or brand of strings that I would like to use on my guitar. That I'm not going to wait and ask, can you please give me money for strings? I'm just going to go make a way and buy strings for myself. But everybody's not the same. Everybody's not by the means to be able to do that. And I hope I'm answering your question. Brother Beckett came to me once and said to me, well, Shane, what do you think I should do in Bible Tabernacle? And I looked at the speakers. They were very narrow speakers. And I said, in my personal opinion, Pastor, if you can change the PA system, and then the singers will come out much more clearer, the sound will be a bit better for the preacher as well. As long as you have somebody that knows what they're doing at the back. And thank God, Pastor Pickett listened, and we upgraded the PA system. But otherwise, brother, what I can also encourage you and other musicians, go on your knees. I guarantee you, God will make a way. As He's made a way for me through all the years. God will make a way. I believe that if you're zealous, and you want to do something for Him, and He sees your heart, trust me, God is going to put somebody in your way that's going to bless you with a nice instrument. I've seen it myself, and it will happen to you also.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brother Victor, for that question. That is a very important question because I think musicians, our tastes are all different. And, when it comes to replacing things like strings and guitars and amps and things like that, pastors and band leaders do not necessarily see the importance as you would. I've got my private bass guitar here, and these strings on this little baby, they cost between 1,000 and 2,000 rand just for 4 strings because they're gold plated. So I haven't replaced them for a few years, and even though my dad's the pastor, I don't think he wants to replace them for me. So yeah, I see Brother Shane's point very, very clearly, and I think for musicians. But what I like specifically about Brother Shane that stood out for me is getting your own instrument, and I think that is where a lot of guitarists have made the mistake. Or bass guitarists as such, we play with what the church can buy us. So now the church, can only afford a cheap, 4-string guitar, and then you playing with that. But the moment you buy your own instrument, you look after it differently. You take it home, you polish it, you keep it clean. And I've walked into churches. I've walked into churches with really good bassists, really, really good. But you look at the guitar and it's dusty. The strings are old, and he doesn't care because it's not his. It's the church's. So I like Brother Shane's idea of getting your own guitar, because then I think just for our viewers out there, when you have your own instrument, you actually look after it and you give the necessary attention, that you need to. So I'm going to ask you quickly, Brother Shane. I'm going to come back to you, Brother Shane, on this one. But if you give us your closing comments, please just lift your guitar so we can see it to the screen. But we're going to start with Brother Victor quickly. Do you have any closing comments for us?
I just wanted to comment on Brother Shane's guitar before he lifts it up. That was my dream guitar when I started listening to it. It's an amazing guitar. I read all about it, and as soon as I didn't know what guitar you were using until they played the track. And I actually wanted to find out about that song that you played. Was that just a normal freestyle, as you would say, or is it a song? Because it really sounded great as well. The chord structure and the way you went about it, I loved it. Is it a song? Did you do a cover of something, or was that just something that just came out?
Oh, okay. First of all, thanks for the compliment, brother. Brother Dalton had put me under pressure to put a clip together. and what I did, like I said to you, it's very important always to pray about something. And I asked God, I said, you know what, this is not about me. You know what came to mind, before I answer you further, the message belongs to God. We are God's people. And God will lead us in the way that He finds fit. If there's issues regarding music in the message, God will fix that up in His time. We just keep it simple, stay anointed, stay sincere, and then God will do the rest. Now, there's Nathan East has played some lines like that. Victor Hooten has played some lines like that. Like I said, I just put together my own melody, my own chord structure, because I like the tone of the bass, and that is why the bass actually makes the chord sounds beautiful, because of the bass, and that's basically, and you could hear I wasn't doing a lot of things. All I did was just play chords out of G, and then E minor, and then A minor, and go D, and then I'll go B minor, then A flat, and then A minor, and back to D. So if you do it simply, and then you can actually hear the beauty of the guitar. That was the main objective, just to keep it simple.
Thank you so much for the sharing. That's amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brother Victor. Brother Jude, do you have any last comments to make?
Hey, Brother Shane, I was blown away now by that slap, the slap piece of yours. That was I was not expecting that. It was like much different from the first clip that they played. The first thing that when I saw your bass, the first person that came to mind was Nathan East. The first he's actually one of the guys that I look up to in bass. The first song I heard of him was I don't know if you brothers know 101 Eastbound.
Yeah.
And that is But no, brothers, I enjoyed both of your playing tonight, and it's good to know that there's a lot of other bassists out there. I mean, I don't know a lot of bassists personally in the message, and I'm glad to have met the two other excellent bass players. Yeah, so it'll be nice to if we can link up sometime and trade numbers and so on, and
Anytime.
share our skills and so on. I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Brother Shane, any other closing comments from your side? First, show us your guitar. First, show the guitar. From Shane.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh. Pressure. I just want to say lastly, you know what? Something that God also put on my heart. We all grew up in different homes with different music backgrounds. And with the result, I'm not greater than anybody else. That's one thing. It's only because of my father, etc., etc. And I've listened to everybody that played, both brothers, that's on the panel at the moment. You are unique in your own way. You blessed me with your playing in your own way, and keep going. We cannot be one another. We can learn from one another, but we are all different in personalities. We feel different. Sometimes if I feel hurt, it might come out of my guitar. If I'm happy, it's going to come out of my guitar. You're gonna hear I'm gonna be all over that Pungsa Quirky. I'm gonna slam right there.
Agreed.
And you know what? There's such amazing talent, vocalists, piano players, guitar players, saxophone players, everything in the message, and God has blessed us. And I've been blessed with everybody that I've heard from chapter 1. I'm thinking, this is in the message.
Yeah.
This is in the message how people are so talented. Now the only thing that we need is just to be channeled properly, to know when to do certain things, when to hold back with certain things. And that will come with practice, And I just so from the bottom of my heart appreciated everybody's contribution to this attempt that Brother Dalton wants to put forward. And I pray that God will continuously bless each and every musician in this message. And there's one thing that God knows I've never ever done. I've never ever once in my life criticized one musician in this message for the simple reason you do not know that brother who maybe just plays 3 chords. That brother is sincere, he loves God, and God honors that. That is very, very important. If you do something towards a brother that somebody thinks only plays 3 chords, God's going to deal with you, because that's God's serving there. Because at the end of the day, in that maybe little church in the ark, he's the only source that God can use. So who cares about this chord structure? He's sincere. He's doing something for God, and that is why I do not criticize anybody in the ministry. God is going to nail you. God is going to come after you. So everybody out there, keep on doing it to your best potential. Stay sincere, do it for God, and I can promise you, God will bless you. That is. There's no great one amongst us, not at all. It's all about Him.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Brother Shane. Thanks so much, brothers, for joining us this evening.
Well, I think that was absolutely marvelous. I think it was amazing just to hear these musicians do what they do best, and you can see that they really love what they're doing. And last up this evening, we've got the brass section. Members from the brass section, we've got 2 flautists, a saxophonist, as well as a trumpet player. And I think you're going to enjoy them very much. Totally ranged out in terms of the experiences, how old they are, and how long they've been playing. But I just enjoyed this interview very much, and I know you will too.
What a beautiful, beautiful sound there, Sister Amy. Wow. Don't you just want to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from.
Yeah, so I'm Amy Thompson. I'm from Johannesburg. I fellowship at EGC. And yeah, I've been part of the orchestra for, I've lost count, a good number of years. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Sarah knows better, but 4 or 5 years. So yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, that's a long time. And we've already heard so many players from your orchestra. I mean, it really sounds beautiful, the sound that you're going for there. Do you have any formal training on your flute?
Yeah, so I started when I was 12 years old, so that was about 12 years ago. Yeah, so, but I had played the recorder when I was 7, I started. So I had that background behind me, which really helped. So yeah, I took flute lessons for about 6 years. Yeah, started with grade 3, went up to grade 8, practical. And then my theory, I did up to grade 6. So yeah.
Wow, that is so impressive. I wouldn't even think myself. I played a little bit of flute, and the only thing I remember about playing the flute is that I started getting these pins and needles in my cheeks. I wasn't getting enough oxygen in, or too much oxygen. Too much oxygen.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so besides the flute, you said you played the recorder. Anything else?
I played piano for about 3 years, but it got too much with flute, so I unfortunately had to drop it. So yeah.
Okay, and you enjoy playing the flute?
I do. Yeah, it's a lovely instrument.
So we've heard some of the brass instruments last week telling us that they started off with record and then they went over to saxophone. I'm imagining that the fingering is very similar, as well as flute going to sax. Has that not been your design, maybe to blow a woodwind instrument, or you're sticking to flute?
No, I think I'm sticking to flute. I don't know if I don't know if I have the lung capacity for sax. Yeah.
No, I think it's very interesting. And in your orchestra, how many flute players are there?
We have 3 currently, but only 2 play at a time. Yeah.
Okay, because that's my next question is which part do you play when you're playing the flute?
I play melody. Sarah plays harmony. Yeah, I haven't bridged that gap yet. I'm too scared. Harmony takes a lot of skill. Yeah.
When we were chatting to Brother Gersh a couple of weeks, we also heard that the harmony takes a whole lot more skill on the sax. So I'm guessing that's the same with the flute, eh?
Yeah. Also, it depends on the song. Like some songs I can pick it up easily. Others have me completely stumped. Yet I can sing the alto, but as soon as you play flute, it just melody just comes more naturally. Yeah.
So, okay, tell us about the flute that you're playing. What brand is it? Is it a silver flute? What is it?
It's a Yamaha. I think it's a 211. It's a student model. What happened was I started off on the Gemeenraad. It was a second-hand flute that we bought from a friend of ours. But then as time got on, I think I played it for about a year. And then I wanted my own brand new flute, you know how it is. But so we eventually bought a brand new Yamaha. And then I think for one of my exams, I think it could have been for grade 6, my flute teacher, who I'm really close to, she gave me her head joint, a silver head joint, from one of her professional flutes. So that made the world of difference. It changes the sound completely. So yeah, I would love to go for a professional flute, completely silver, but my budget doesn't allow for that. At the moment anyway. Yeah.
So I have a question then for you. With your level of music and your tuition that you've had, to play in church, if you had to advise a younger player coming up, in order to play in church, do you need to go as far as you went with your studies in music?
I wouldn't say no. I think a good amount of formal training is needed, specifically with flute. A lot of technique goes into playing the flute. For example, tone quality, fingering techniques, tonguing techniques. So I think you definitely need that background behind you, formal training behind you, to play the best you can. But I wouldn't say you would have to go all the way to grade 8. I'm sure, yeah, by grade 4, grade 5, it depends as well from player to player. Some are really, really talented and have an amazing tone and can play by ear and read music really, really young, but some might need a couple more years. So it all depends on the player, really. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, great. Okay, that's all that I have for you. I'm going to ask the other musicians on the panel this evening if they've got any questions for you. Let's start with Sister Sarah.
Yes. Well, I know something Amy didn't say is that she's had a lot of experience actually in playing with orchestras. She was in the Joburg Youth Orchestra and things like that. So I wanted to ask Amy if, for other ones who are listening, how different you find it to playing in one of those orchestras to like the church orchestra, and if you sort of bring over your skills from a real classical orchestra to church.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was thinking, I think a lot of it is very similar because obviously we've got a lot of voices. Obviously a classical orchestra doesn't have sax, but that's besides the point. We've got strings.
Yeah.
Strings, we had trumpets, clarinet. Yeah, so I think one of the skills I learned in orchestra that I carried over to playing in church orchestra was that everyone has a time to shine. You don't have to play the melody or like the main part the whole time. You can kind of be in the background and be just as important as the person playing the main line, and to give way to other voices. I think that's really important, and that's something I carried across. Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. Over to Brother Emmanuel. Brother Manny, from your side, do you have any questions for Sister Amy?
I actually do. So I'd like to know why the flute? Of all instruments, why the flute?
It's pretty.
Oh.
It makes a beautiful sound. No, I don't know. I suppose maybe watching Sarah and I think Karen, who played flute in the church orchestra all those years ago, kind of really maybe inspired that part of me. And also, when I played recorder, I had reached grade 7 level, and I couldn't do any more with the recorder, and so I was like, I'm still young. What can I go to next? And I was like, I came across, I think my aunt, my dad's aunt, was cleaning out her house, and we had gone there to see, have a look around. And my dad's cousin had an old flute that she used to play a couple of years ago. And I mean, it was this old rusty old thing, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I want one. And I'd love to play one. So yeah, I think that's where it kind of all started, is the end of my recorder journey, and kind of going into what would I like to play next, and the flute just stood out for me. So,
okay. Another question, and I've heard in the way that you play, you've got a nice tone. So you're a well-seasoned player. Do you have a role model? Is it somebody that you look up to?
Good question. I suppose my flute teacher had a big role in that. She plays beautifully, and she played in, I think it was the Johannesburg Festival Orchestra, and yeah, I just admired her tone quality. She has a beautiful sound. So I'd say she probably was one of my role models. And then I actually look up to Sarah in many ways because her tone quality is amazing, and I've never heard a flat or sharp note come out. Yeah, she's definitely one of my role models.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brother Manny. We're going to go over to Brother Norman. Brother Norman, if you've got a question there for Sister Amy.
Yes, I do, brother. Okay, she's got you've got a beautiful tone. I must admit, you have a real beautiful tone, sister. But I also discovered that we all have different preferences of playing and different styles of playing. It would sound very nice with a lot of grace notes. Do you prefer playing normal straight, or do you prefer playing with grace notes? Do you know that obviously what a grace note is?
Yeah. I suppose in a church context, especially during pre-service, I normally try and keep it as straight as possible because we've been rapped on the knuckles by Wilson a couple of times when it's been too busy.
Do you predominantly play in the church band, or do you play outside or of other orchestras and things like that?
I used to, but then the orchestra, it just got too busy with university, and so I just predominantly play in the church orchestra for now.
Okay.
But I'd like to join an orchestra again.
Okay, thanks, Brother Norman. Thanks, Sister Amy.
Yes, sir.
I think that was beautiful, and some good questions that came out there. We're gonna go over to Sister Sarah now. ended just too quickly. I was just enjoying it. Please tell us a bit more about
Thank
yourself.
you. Yeah, so Sarah, I attend the same church as Amy and Brother Gideon Retief, and I've played in the orchestra for quite a while at church. It was one of my dreams as a child to join the orchestra. My sister, who's 2 years older, she was actually Becky, who was on the show last week.
Okay.
She was already in the orchestra. Yeah. She's my sister, and of course I looked up to her and tried to follow her footsteps. So she was in the orchestra and I always wanted to join. And so I still remember Wilson or someone telling me to play along, like get the church recordings and practice and play along so then I could join. And when I was in grade 8 in high school, I finally got to join. But it took me a while to get confidence. I was quite a shy girl. So at the time, Karen Bagel, she doesn't play at the moment because she has children, so she looks after them. And she was my role model. So I played a lot with her in church. And the funny thing is, and I have such clear memories of it, she wanted me to start playing the harmony or the alt, and I really just wanted to stick to melody because, like Amy said, there's quite a lot of sort of, I don't know, pressure attached to figuring out the harmony in the orchestra on the flute. So she told me, okay, when I stick to playing the melody, you need to swap over and play the harmony. And so pre-service, I'd like be dreading this moment when Karen sticks to the melody and I have to go and play the harmony. But it was actually the best way because I learned from her, I learned from listening to her harmonies. And like Amy said already, when we play, I can now play the harmony fine many, many years later. And Amy plays the melody. So yeah, that's my story of the orchestra. So now it's been many years. I'm already 10 years out of high school, so you can do the math. But yeah, so that's me at church at least. Yeah.
I don't think we must talk about many years here with Brother Norman and myself here. We won't talk about years. But
yeah.
I really enjoy, the sound of the flute, and I enjoy mostly how you inspiring, younger people who's deciding which instrument to play, because mostly we just look at a band, 4-piece band setup, 5-piece band setup, and you've got the rhythm instruments, and then you don't have a flute in that kind of set. It's usually
It's a very unique instrument.
and I think it brings a nice dimension and a nice sound. So, about your formal training, you also have the 8 years and 6 years and all those years training in a flute?
Yeah. So, well, I started with the piano, and then, which I think gave me a very good grounding with all the theoretical understanding of music. And as my sister and brother said, our mom taught us piano from like age 5, which I loved. I loved the piano. But my mom played the flute, so I always wanted to play the flute. And actually, because you generally start with a recorder, so I did start with a recorder. And then like around that time, Amy said she started playing at 12. That's pretty much the average age for flutes, because then your hands are big enough and everything. But I was quite determined to play flute from like the youngest age possible. So I was 9 years old, and there was a music school at my primary school, so I met the flute teacher, and he agreed to the challenge to take on me as 9 years old. And yeah, that's where the journey began. I went up to grade 7 with flute, and I think so. I did grade 7 piano and flute. So I can never really decide in my life and choose one thing. So I took piano and flute all the way to grade 7, and then when I was at varsity, like Amy, I didn't manage to complete grade 8, which is one of my saddest points about my musical career. But maybe I'll get there. So yeah, I've loved it ever since little, and when I play it, especially at church, it's some of my favorite moments. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's so good. It's evident that you enjoy what you're doing, and like Brother Emmanuel asked earlier on, what got you stuck on that particular instrument, and to see somebody drawn to that. I want to ask a question that might just bite me, but is a flute a girl's instrument or a guy's instrument?
It's a good question. I think because it's so pretty and like a airy, floaty kind of instrument, I suppose maybe it attracts more girls to it. But I mean, some of the best flautists in the world, like James Galway, they're men as well.
Okay.
My 2 flute teachers were male as well, so it's interesting.
All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting to know. And I really want to challenge our viewers out there that we need to get more people on the flute. We have to get this instrument going. It's such a church instrument. I mean, it's so soothing on the ear. Not like the bass guitar once again. It's not like when King Saul was suffering there with his demons and his spirit. I don't think he called in the bassists to come in.
No. Yeah. There is something about a flute. It creates a very peaceful atmosphere, I think. It's very calming.
Absolutely. And tell us a bit about the flute that you're playing on right now.
So I wonder if it's similar or identical to Amy. I know when we're on stage, we have to make sure which flute we pick up, that we pick up our own one. It is also a student flute. I think it's pewter though. It's one of those things my mom knows because she bought the flute. So I have always also dreamed of sort of upgrading to a beautiful silver flute or something like that. But this flute has served me well. I feel committed to it. So it's a Yamaha, a 221, a pewter student flute, and it's served a long time. Yeah. So
can you play the piccolo?
I wish I could play the piccolo. I don't know if Amy can play the piccolo, but I've always loved hearing that in an orchestra. Like when I watch the JPO or something, the tiny little piccolo. But I can't, no, unfortunately.
Wow. Just a backstory for myself. I went to music school, and my first instrument was the double bass. And I went for double bass. I brought the flute back home just to practice at home. And then I decided to switch to flute, and then I switched to flute, and I brought the piccolo back home. And I used to play with the piccolo at home. And then I played the piccolo in church, and I annoyed a lot of people because it's got such a high
Yeah.
So
it's so
that
high.
was, whoever's whistling in church, stop whistling. We don't want that anymore.
Yeah, I know. The piccolo has a very specific time and place, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got a lot of experience. Do you also play in an orchestra outside of church?
No. I wanted to play in the J. So I feel like I had a bit of bad luck because I wanted to play in the JYO, the Johannesburg Youth Orchestra, but at the time there were 2 sort of main flautists and they weren't going anywhere. So they held that closed for a while. Because of course my sister played in the JYO, so I wanted to. And then I just never got a chance to audition or go into it again. So the church is my only real orchestra experience.
Yeah. Okay, and it sounds beautiful. I mean, and we heard from Amy as well. I loved specifically how you changed the octaves on the flute, and I know for those people that's watching out there, if you think the lower octave is easier, try going to those really low notes. You need to really blow a specific amount of air to get those low notes sounding just right.
That's so true. I know, like if it happens in pre-service and if Wilton starts a piece that starts with like the C, the lowest note on the flute, and it ranges from like the C up to the G for most of the time, I feel like nobody in the church is really hearing us because it's so low and you're like blowing so hard. And so it's true. Those low notes are quite an art.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Oh, wow, I think that's so interesting. From a church perspective, so you've played, piano and you've got a bit of flute. Um,
Yeah.
do you feel that your formal tuition, helps you in playing in church?
Yeah, I think it really does. And I think especially when it comes into the harmonizing, sort of understanding the chord progressions and which sounds go together. And then of course I'm adding in those little twirls that we somewhat refrain from doing because otherwise it's a bit messy in an orchestra. I think those technical things are very important from formal training. And then of course, like Amy was saying with the tone, I think the key to a good flute player is having a good tone, and that comes from training from a good teacher who teaches you how to get that sound clear and beautiful. And so definitely, I think a few years of training has definitely helped to play in the orchestra. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, fine. That's enough from me. I'm gonna ask our panel here if they've got any questions for you. We're gonna start with Sister Amy.
Hey, so I felt like Brother Dalton asked every single one of the questions I was going to ask. One thing he didn't ask was, do you prefer playing harmony over melody, or vice versa, and why?
Well, I suppose in a sense from like the way with playing with Car, and that harmony seems like the cherry on the top that I had to learn and aspire to. So I have a lot of fun actually playing the harmony. But then of course it's also a nice surprise to stick to melody and someone else plays the harmony, because I don't often do that. But I think I love playing harmony because I hear it so clearly in my head, so I want to get it out, Yeah. But, yeah.
Great stuff, Brother Emmanuel. Do you have anything there for Sarah?
Okay, so firstly, Sarah, that was a very beautiful song. One of my favorites. One of my favorites, "Purify My Heart." So beautiful, very, very, very well done.
Thank you.
And then, like Amy mentioned, you've got a very beautiful tone, and I think a lot of musicians mentioned in the past interviews. I think the tone is like extremely important. It makes or breaks a musician, and you definitely have that. But my question is, I just want to know, as playing the flute, what techniques do you use when it comes to your speed and your tone?
Speed and tone. Sometimes I find it so hard to explain what we do as flautists because it's so intricate, and I'm sure you'll know from playing brass instrument with what you do with your lips and your tongue. Speed's definitely got a lot to do with your tongue though. So if you have more time, you can like your notes, like tongue them. If I can, I don't have a better word for it to describe that. But if you're going faster, then you're a little bit lazy, maybe you don't tongue and you just play, you just like blow the notes. So yeah, your tongue plays a role in the speed. And with tone, you have to have like, good posture. Your diaphragm needs to be able to do its thing. And that plays a big role with your tone, and then of course what you're doing with your lips, especially to get to the higher octaves. So yeah, I'd say it's quite an intricate dynamic between everything.
All right. Great, man. And then my last question, I heard like Dalton also said you went an octave higher. Now I've never played the flute before, but does your fingering stay the same?
Mostly. I would say up to C, the higher C, your fingering is exactly the same as one octave lower. But then from D, E, F, G, you've got different fingering to get to the much higher octave. Yeah, so it's different fingering and then different way of blowing. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Thanks, Brother Manny. We're going to go over to Brother Norman. Brother Normie, do you have any questions there for Sister Sarah?
I have to say that you are quite a beautiful player. And like the question was asked by Brother Delton, is it predominantly a female instrument or a male? It's not. It's you know. When I give my interview, you'll hear my background. It's such a beautiful instrument, the flute. And the flute, people who don't play the flute don't understand what you're experiencing when you're playing the flute.
True. That's very true.
They don't know what it is, and you have to. It's an instrument that really you really have to have the patience and the desire to play it to make it sound like the way you sound. You and Sister, I have to admit it's a beautiful. And when I come from work and because I play the saxophones, all the saxophones, tenor, alto, and soprano. But when I come from work, the first instrument I grab just to make me unwind is the flute.
Wow. I can understand why.
I really appreciate your playing, and my desire for you is just to stay focused, and play with all your heart and give the Lord your best. Because if you can't give God your best, then don't do it at all.
True. Yes.
Thanks, Brother Norman. Thanks, Sister Sarah, for that, all those answers. We're gonna go over.
Thank you.
So we're done with the flautist now. Am I saying it right? Flautist, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over to Brother Emmanuel now. Brother Manny, that is some good playing there, my brother.
Thanks.
Wow. Man. Just introduce yourself to us, please, bro.
So I am Emmanuel Kwong Lee, originally from Port Elizabeth, but I stay in Johannesburg now. And I also fellowship at the Emmanuel Gospel Center.
We're getting the whole orchestra up here.
So, yeah.
Do you play in the orchestra?
I don't play in the orchestra.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've progressed. You've moved on to chorus leading.
Yeah, I think most of my time goes into leading the songs or chorus leading. So yeah.
Okay,
I do however play when I feel inspired to do a song item, or when there's somebody does a special testimony and they ask me to play along, and then I do play. Yes.
Okay, great. So you didn't mention this, but you are the brother of Nehemiah and Theo, who we've already interviewed. and we saw Brother Nehemiah trying to get onto the camera there while you were playing. We saw that, so you're trying
He
to
likes
steal.
he likes doing that, eh?
So tell us, Brumani, where was that? Where did you play that particular song?
So that was in 2017. I'm sure you all know Pastor the late Pastor Chesa from in Zimbabwe. So what he does is, I think every year or every second year, he invites believers from maybe from America or from South Africa, and that specific convention, he actually had the La Fontaines there, and we were really blessed to also share a stage with him. So that was in Zimbabwe, and obviously you could see the crowd, the majority was more African. So I think the song choice was more African.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I really love the sound that you're producing on that trumpet. Definitely years and years and years of playing. Tell us a bit about your formal training on the trumpet.
So like the other musicians, I also started with the recorder. I also started playing the recorder. I think it was at the age of 8 or 9. I had I don't know what you call it. I think it's the soprano recorder. It's the cream one. So I started off with that at home. And then when I went to school, I think I was in grade 4, grade 5. I ended up with a tenor recorder, which I think is the big brown one, which I then started reading music. I played for the school's orchestra as the first recordist. And then I progressed into high school. That was in grade 8. I progressed and I played the trumpet. But my initial instrument, I actually wanted to play the saxophone. My heart was really bleeding to play the saxophone. So I went to school and I said to my parents, listen, yeah, I want to play the saxophone. I feel led to play the saxophone. And they said to me, no, you're not going to play the saxophone. You're going to play the trumpet. And I was like, but I like the saxophone. And of course, being the obedient child that I am, I ended up playing the trumpet. And yeah, that was why I played the trumpet. I played in the school band. It was at that time they called it the Victoria Park Jazz Band at school, and started off as the third trumpeter. And as the years went by, I ended up playing the first trumpet part. And I did theory at school, and then obviously practical as well. And I went up to grade 6 on the trumpet. So, when I left school, I kind of, you start studying and you go to work, you kind of put the instrument aside. And then I stopped. But I've made a decision after the lockdown that I'm going to definitely further my studies. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, well, welcome to marriage life. I was the other day. I haven't. Yeah, I put down my instrument 15 years ago, and that's how long I've read. So, brother Manny, you've got a beautiful trumpet there. I was hoping you could show it to us, and just tell us a bit about the story behind that trumpet.
Well, I do have it here.
Awesome.
This is, for those who don't know, this is what a trumpet looks like. Very beautiful instrument. It's a Bach. One of the best, if I could say, one of the best brands. It's a Vincent Bach, and yeah, that's the make of the instrument.
Okay, great stuff. I think we heard from our bassists a little while ago, and they were telling us, they were just telling us the importance of spending money on a quality instrument,
Yes,
because you're sitting in church, sitting in an orchestra, wherever you're playing, and you don't want to be playing with something that is, low quality, because you will know the sound that you're producing it could be so much better.
Yes, sir.
So Manny, I know you for a few years, and I know that you have dabbled with a whole lot of instruments. Which other instruments can you play?
I play a bit of bass guitar. Actually, I love playing the bass guitar. If I had a choice, I would choose to play the bass guitar. But yeah, I play a bit of bass. I play a bit of guitar as well. I play a little bit of saxophone, if I could say that. And yeah, it's me. And when you mentioned earlier about the quality of the instrument. Personally, when it comes to brass instruments, I've played, like you said, I've played a couple of instruments. Even with the trumpet, I've played a lot of different trumpets from, I think it's a Santa Fe, which is one of the cheapest trumpets, to one of the most expensive, which is the Yamaha and the Bach. But in terms of quality, my personal opinion, with brass, it doesn't really matter what brand you play. The tone is what matters. I remember my first wedding that I did. I didn't have a trumpet, so I got one, and the bell was literally hanging from the trumpet. But I had to play because they asked me to play. But the tone was what was important, and I gave off that tone. And the trumpet was in a complete mess. And that's what I'm saying. It depends on the tone that you produce with the brass instrument, and that obviously comes with practicing your long notes and those kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. We heard from brother Edgar, I think 2 weeks ago, also talking about the very same thing you just mentioned now, practicing those long notes. Just sitting and getting your tone sounding exactly the way it should. And I think you're mentioning that now. And I've heard you on the bass and a few other instruments, and I must say the Kwang Lees are very, very talented musicians. And I think you can praise God for the talent He has given you.
Definitely, most definitely, yes.
So, going from your formal training into church, also, I know you're born in the Message, playing church music most of your life. Give us a little bit about your opinion on music in the church, because I know you have been in a few, churches growing up, coming from PE to Johannesburg, living in Pretoria, and then, getting married where you are now. You've played in a few bands, in a few churches, and you've seen different kinds of music in different churches. So what is your opinion around it? What's your opinion around music in the church?
So like you said, I played in a lot of churches, a lot of conventions as well. And I had the opportunity to share the stage with, and I think in all the churches that I've been to, with brilliant musicians, gifted musicians, if I could say that. And I've noticed a lot of hidden talent in the Message. So my personal opinion is that I think that hidden talent can come out a lot more if it's just directed in the right path and by the right people. But overall, I would say, I think the standard of the Message is quite good, I would say.
And I think that means a lot coming from you, also with your experience, playing in different bands and orchestras. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think you were also on DSTV a few times. I actually want to use that as an excuse to get me DSTV so that I can watch you and look for you. So Brother Manny, that is all from my side. I'm going to ask Sister Sarah, do you have any questions for Brother Emmanuel?
Well, I think I've always been somewhat fascinated by the trumpet, because am I correct? You only have like three keys.
Three buttons.
Press 3 buttons.
3 valves.
Valves. Whatever the correct term is. I just want to, for my own ignorance, but how do you actually make different notes, like a full octave of sound with just 3 buttons?
Yeah, so I think it's quite simple. Like I would say it's almost similar to the other instruments where you like use the same fingering. Like for example, with the trumpet, maybe if I give you an example, I would play C, G, and E. You're not using any of the valves. depending on how I form my lips. Or I'd use the A and the E note using the same valves, which is the 1 and the 2, but also depending on the formation of my lips. And the higher I go, the tighter my lips. The lower I go, the more,
Okay.
it goes.
Okay. Wow. That's a combination. That's very cool.
Right.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I think if I just listen to that, that sounds like a very complicated. But on the chat the other day, the brothers were saying that they could learn it in 1 day. So I don't know what's going to happen on the chat below now. We'll hear what they say. Sister Amy, from your side, do you have any questions for Brother Manny?
Yeah, I was wondering who your role model is, your inspirations.
Sure. Wow. Very, very good question, Amy. So growing up, like I said, I always wanted to play the saxophone. But if you listen or if you look at the trumpet, the musicians playing trumpet, you don't really find. Well, you do find gospel trumpeters, but not they don't give you what you want. So what I did was I took Kirk Whalum as my role model. So he plays the saxophone. So what I do is, because I love saxophone so much, I take what Kirk does and I put it into the trumpet. So yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, cool.
All right.
That's very interesting. I know that a lot of musicians, as we've also heard, a lot of musicians take their piano knowledge, transfer it onto guitar, guitar knowledge onto bass guitar, and so on and so forth. I think it's the first time I've heard of someone transferring from a saxophone onto a trumpet. So that is definitely quite interesting. We're going to go over to Brother Norman. Brother Norman, from your side, are there any questions?
I must say that you're really a gifted musician. The Quanglies are really a phenomenon. Myself and your dad, we are good pals. And myself and Lodwell and your mom, we good pals because we must probably be the same age. But I played with you, Nehemia, at the convention at the Cape Town International Convention Center. And it was memorable. For me, it was a memorable event. We shared the stage together, but I just want to say that I really appreciate your playing, and also the way you you presented yourself, even on stage there, it was really fantastic. What I like about your playing, your nature as a person, you're very relaxed and you're very laid back. You don't talk a lot, and you're just yourself,
Thanks for that, Brother Manny. We're going to go over to Brother Norman now. Ah, Brother Norman, that was so beautiful, and I appreciated. We just had Brother Shane on the bass guitar. Now he's playing there on that acoustic guitar, sounding so beautiful. Brother Norman, don't you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how long you've been playing that beautiful instrument?
I came to the message when I was 21 years old. I accepted the Lord in my life when I was 21. I've got about 3 years left till I'm 60. And yeah, I've got about 3 years left till I'm 60. I started with my mentor, Brother Edgar de Vries. We've been pals for many years. We played together for many years, and he's always been my mentor, Him and Brother Dale Adams, and Brother Theo, Brother Jackie Hans, and all these brethren that, if you wanted to play in Brother Dale's band, you had to know, Brother Edgar's band, you had to know what you were doing. So I'm actually a drummer. I started on the drums. And then from the drums, I decided, no, man, this is too much work. Because every time we finish with a gig, then I have to pack up the cymbals and all that, and I'm left alone with all those drums, So I asked Brother Edgar, I want to play, if he hasn't got something smaller for me to play. And then he had a tenor saxophone. And then I didn't go for any formal training. I just have a gift how to play by ear. And it took me about a week to learn to play the tenor saxophone. And then from the tenor saxophone, if you know Brother Stanley Schubert, he was playing the alto, and we swapped. And that's how my musical journey started in the church. So I've been playing in the church now. I've been playing at Bible Tabernacle. Because I've been fellowshipping with Brother Beckett now for almost 40 years. So I've been playing at the Tabernacle for about 25 years in the band. But then as time went on, we got older with other responsibilities, and there was also young and up and coming young kids that we wanted to, young brothers, and so that we could incorporate them also into the band so they can also get exposure. And thus far, they've been doing very well. I haven't taken a back seat. I still do like items and things like that if when the need arises. But we are more normally, if there's like weddings and funerals and 21st, 31st, 41st.
Have you had any formal training?
I've had formal training. I've played with many very good musicians. When I used to go for training, like, I was trained by a guy by the name of John Rojas. He was an oboe player, and also a very unique saxophone player. And I was trained by him, and mostly just to understand the instrument. Once you understand the instrument, you feel comfortable when you play it. And I used to listen to a lot of, because I come from a home where ballroom dancing was very prominent in our home, and as we call it in Cape Town, langarm. And we used to listen to a lot of Jimmy's Grand Six and the Fontaines and Bobby Hendricks and things. So I was raised up with that kind of music, ballroom, langarm, And then when I started playing, I thought, no, I can't play langarm in the church, man. I can't play that style. It doesn't just sound right. There's got to be anointing with it. So I listened to another guy by the name of Grover Washington Jr., and not because I wanted to pick up his style of playing, because you can pick up his spirit also, and then you do the things like he does, I just wanted I liked his tone, and I liked the way he did certain things, and I was quite attracted to his kind of playing. I never used it in the church because it wouldn't be right to do that. The Holy Ghost is very sensitive. And people are also who are filled with the Holy Ghost have a sense of discernment. So we as musicians have to realize that they have a sense of discernment, and they can tell you exactly when you're playing a jazz note. We've experienced it many times.
Okay, great stuff. Over to Sister Sarah. Do you have a question for Brother Norman?
Yes, well, I know he said he loves playing the flute. Brother Norman, you said you love playing the flute when you get home from work, but you also said you play like all the other types of saxophones. So I was wondering if you had a favorite between the alto and the tenor and all those types. Which one is your favorite?
Sister Sarah, to your question, answer your question. I enjoy playing at all the saxophones. I like to play the um, the tenor saxophone. I enjoy it. It's got a very coarse sound. It's it just does something for me as a player. Like I watched that brother from Johannesburg, from the brother who plays the tenor saxophone. I enjoyed his playing. What a master! He's absolutely a true sign overlooked. I appreciate you, my brother, man. Thank you for your endeavors and your contribution to the music fraternity in the message. But you get some saxophone players and you get some saxophone players. But I enjoy playing the tenor sax the most.
Great stuff. Sister Amy, do you have a question for Brother Normie?
Yes, so I wanted to ask, with his many years of experience, what advice or encouragement would he give the up-and-coming musicians, the younger generation, what advice he would give them regarding playing in church?
Sister Amy, my advice to you up and coming musicians, stay focused. You as a musician, you have to really distinguish the difference between, is this a career or is it a calling? And once you differentiate the difference between the two, the Holy Ghost will allow you. Brother Bram say in Christ the Mystery of God, God is just looking for a body to live through. So for you up and coming musicians, just two things that you don't do. Don't worship your instrument, and don't overutilize your gift. It can be a danger to you. And also be spiritual at all times. Read the Bible, listen to the tapes, say what Brother Branham says, and also don't go play in these Rema churches, these charismatic movements, because there's where all the trouble happens. You know, especially you young boys, you gifted, you got the niche, you got the... If you want to slap your bass and you feel you want to express yourself, go into your back room, you put your speakers on loud and bum, 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 and you play, you burn yourself out there, but don't go play in the Pentecostal world. And don't go play in the charismatic churches. Listen to your brother. I'm your elder brother. Don't do that. And sometimes, there's two things what music can do. In most cases, it can seduce you. It can entice you. Music can either cast off spirits or it can quicken spirits. So it depends on how you project and how you present the music. So stay focused, read the Bible, stay with the Word. And if you want to come to under the conclusion, what is the difference between your calling and your career, then you'll be able to allow the Holy Ghost to really, move in your body. I believe that you first get sanitized and energized by the Holy Ghost, and then you get sensitized to the Holy Ghost. And then you play by the leading of the Holy Ghost. So that's my advice to you, my younger brothers and sisters, my up-and-coming musicians. You're gifted, and just give your gift. Just bless Him with it, because everything was made for His glory.
Lastly, Brother Emmanuel, do you have a question for Brother Norman?
Two questions. So I just want to know from Brother Norman, do you prefer, because I've noticed a lot of saxophonists prefer playing solo. Are you one of them? Or do you prefer playing with the brass section? Secondly, what influences you to play the way you play? Because you've got a very beautiful tone. You can hear it's not coming from the saxophone is coming from deep within. So what influences you? And when I say influence you, is it the word of God? Is it the sound that you hear in church?
When I play, like when a minister ministers, he ministers his revelation. When a singer sings, they sing their revelation. Now, you as a musician, you must understand that we also have a very, very responsible contribution towards the service. It's how you bring it across, and because like I said, music and cast of spirits. People come there, they are burdened. So the only way you can let go of that burden is to strike a right note. Play by the word of God. I get inspired by the word of God, and when I hear how good the ministry is and what I heard through the ministry, and then I want to express it through my instrument.
So thanks everybody for joining us this evening. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Dalton?
Yes,
Thank
Brother
you.
Manny.
I just hope from all of this, because I think a lot of musicians got to know each other via this. So I'm hoping at the next convention, we'll have a massive orchestra with a massive brass section.
Yes.
I really hope so.
Absolutely. We've all been saying it. Everyone's been saying the next convention, they're coming with the instruments.
I thoroughly enjoyed that, didn't you? Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you for all the comments, the people, commenting below and telling us, what they think and how much they love the music. And we're just so happy that we could give the musicians a platform where they can just express themselves. We can hear from them. We never hear from our musicians. And now we can speak to them, hear the personality, behind the instrument. And I just think tonight was a brilliant way to end off, the season of May, our first season of the Message Music Diaries. And I just want to thank everyone that joined us this evening. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and trust that you'll keep on praying for us, that this will continue being a blessing to everyone out there. Remember to like, share, subscribe to our channel, and click on that little bell so you get notifications when we're posting our next video, because coming up in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we're going to have an excerpt from the chorus leaders. We're going to have a pastor's perspective, and we're going to play some of the music that we've received from the musicians. So remember, we are for musicians, by musicians. And these are musicians that are going to be playing the instruments, and we're going to put all that music together for you, about an hour or 2 hours. Well, since we started with 3 hours, we might as well just carry on, and make it a 3 hour. I hope we can get to that, but we're going to try our best to put together music for 3 hours. No talking, no interviewing, just music for 2 hours or 3 hours. We're going to do our best. So keep checking us out. Check out next week what we have in store for you. And we're looking forward to the second season of the Message Music Diaries. Good night and God bless.